Since it's quiet and I'm proud of some of the research that I've been able to dig up, I'm going to start reading some of this, kill some time, fill some dead airwaves. So first I'll be posting in the side chat too to follow along. I've got a link here. National Security Archive Electronic Briefing Book number 509 by James David. This is posted to George Washington University. It's a website dedicated to tracking NASA's secret relationships with U.S. defense and intelligence agencies. How about that? Might be interesting, right? Here, take a look at this. There are about 51 or 52 PDF files. It actually serves as a great foundation, a great start, not the end, but the beginning of a big research effort that you or anybody else can undertake to look at all this stuff. So I'll just go through it real quick so you hear what this covers.
Hey, real quick before you start, I'll make a note so I can look it up later. What's the name of it again, bro?
Yep, the National Security Archive, George
National Security
Washington.
Code.
Yep, George Washington University. The title of the page, NASA's Secret Relationships.
Awesome, thanks, man.
Yep. So let me just read some excerpts from this. It's fascinating. Furnishing cover stories for covert operations,
Just these four.
monitoring Soviet missile tests, and
No, man,
supplying
no.
weather data to the
I'm trying
U.S.
to type a note
military.
down and I suck at typing.
Yeah. Let me get through this. All right.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was me.
Yeah, furnishing cover stories for covert ops, monitoring Soviet missiles, and supplying weather data to the U.S. military have been part of the secret side of NASA since it was incepted in 1958, according to declassified documents posted for the first time today. James David, a curator in NASA's Division of Space History, hold on a sec, obtained the documents in the course of researching his critically praised book, Spies and Shuttles, NASA's Secret Relationship with DoD and CIA. David has compiled, edited, and introduced more than 50 of these records for today's postings. Even though Congress' intention in forming NASA was to establish a purely civilian space agency, a combination of circumstances led the agency to commingle its activities with black programs operated by the U.S. military and intelligence community. This often tight cooperation did not, however, keep disputes from bubbling over on issues such as cost sharing. Oh, yeah. Access to classified. Encryption of data intended originally for civilian use, and delays to military satellite launches. Over the years, classified restrictions have kept most of the story out of the public eye, but here is some of them published today. So, yep, this covers a ton. NASA as a consumer and producer of intelligence. NASA as an assistant for the CIA to analyze foreign military capabilities. NASA participating in cover stories. That is to say, paint a NASA logo on a missile or an airplane like the U-2, call it high altitude research, and you can test your weapons all day long. Nobody cares. Nobody bats an eye. NASA using the moon missions here to acquire classified technologies and develop. Public restrictions over the years that have amped up regarding the use of public satellite infrastructure. And NASA using and allowing for use satellites for classified research purposes, and the space shuttle itself, which was a classified research program, and its specs are still classified. Yeah, fascinating. That was one link out of like 200 that I posted recently. I might be slightly exaggerating there. I thought that was fascinating. All right, I got some more. I'm going to post another one I found by Richard Zink. Title is Design of a GPS-aided guidance navigation and control system for trajectory control of an air vehicle. This is by the Defense Technical Information Center, 1994. Quote, relevant quote, the design, implementation, and dynamic simulation of a precise tracking trajectory controller for an unmanned aerial vehicle is presented This design provides a natural conversion of commands and other measured outputs, such as GPS signals, from an inertial reference frame to a body fixed reference frame, a flat tangent plane, simplifying the nonlinear dynamics to provide a robust, highly accurate tracking controller. Hey, yeah, just another example of technology where the globe is not used. Optional, if not detrimental. All right, got some more here. I'll keep posting these. This is by Yun Shen. Title is Modeling and Simulation of UAV Static Soaring Based on Multi-Hole Probe. The ground frame is an inertial coordinate frame. The curvature of the Earth is ignored, called the flat Earth, which simplifies the kinematics and aerodynamic equations required to compute a high-precision optimal flight trajectory. Yeah, this article is about using a UAV that is also a glider to catch thermal currents. And they had to get rid of the globe because it wasn't accurate enough for catching thermal currents. Totally serious. You can go check out that paper. Oh, what else can we do here? Tiago Oliveira, low-cost INS GPS data fusion with extended common filter for airborne applications, University of Lisbon. Quote, the current performance achieved by low-cost IMUs is still relatively poor due to the large inertial sensor errors. However, significant performance improvements can be made using a tightly coupled integration where the extended common filter projects the GPS data into a linearized local navigation frame. That's a flat frame. Developing a robust navigation system that can deal with large sensor errors. It's an interesting one. Post that here too.
The University of Lisbon in English.
Yeah.
Lisbon. You
Oh,
say
about that.
Lisboa. So the guy is Portuguese, Tiago Oliveira.
Yeah. This is by M. Eklund and E. Jansen. The motion model of the extended common filter makes use of small angle approximations, a local tangent plane / flat Earth. For implementation on embedded systems, the extended common filter using the small angle approximation is recommended for its ease of use and low computational cost. It's probably not as strong, but it's still there. It's still same point. Let's see. Precise positioning is a prereq for airborne high-quality magnetic data surveying. The solution requires or relies on a camera and GNSS IMU mounted on the UAV. Evaluation results show that it achieves centimeter-level positioning accuracy for a single axis by utilizing local coordinate projections. That's a flat Earth in its sensor fusion module. Yep, here's another one. Posted. Another one. Now, better net measurements can be made with equipment such as EDM, GPS, and photogrammetric mapping. The systematic error corrections for the grid scale factor are required to preserve the accuracy of modern measurements. So, a local coordinate system, a tangent plane, treats a portion of the Earth's surface as if it was flat and allows spatial data users to preserve the accuracy of modern measurements. Earl Burkholder, designing a local coordinate system. There's the link. Thomas Meyer, position errors caused by GPS blunders. 2005. In practice, a total station. Oh, we know what those are, right? Those are very expensive tripods for surveying with computers built in and GPS. It says in practice, a total station makes a flat Earth assumption so that the vertical components of measurements can be removed with simple trigonometry. This practice essentially projects the measurements into the horizontal plane defined by the local gravitational normal vector, preventing major horizontal errors in GPS point derivation. I thought GPS improved accuracy by putting us on a globe. Not according to this.
Yeah,
So the,
it should be called ground positioning system, not global. The things that
I know. It's always been called global, though. If you go into the original design documents, it's true. It was always global. It's like flat Earth lore to say it used to be ground, and that's
No,
just
I
not
don't say
true.
it used to be. I'm just saying it might as well be. It should be. Like that's what it is versus global. I'm not saying that it was.
Tully foot, coordinate frames for mobile platforms. Map, local E and U coordinate. This keeps the XY plane relatively parallel to the ground surface. Thus, the z-axis points upwards. All map information should be provided in this frame. That's a flat Earth frame. Since most planning calculations are done in this frame, which is required to accurately isolate and correct sensor drift over time. Yeah, you need the plane to correct for errors. Can't use the globe to correct for errors. The most intuitive forms of representation would be the representation of the situation in local, topocentric 3D Cartesian east, north, up coordinates. Only the metric 3D Cartesian system, which represents the real positional relations between the objects, allows reality true compensations. M-way, coordinate frames, transformation, and GNSS ray tracing for autonomous driving in urban areas. Here's another one. I'm posting that. Tired of winning yet? I'm like 1/4 of the way through of just this section. I've got another section to look at. I'll bore you to tears. In order to navigate the integration of GNSS and INS data is typically resolved in the local tangent plane. This significantly simplifies the integration algorithms and provides high accuracy pedestrian tracking by eliminating the complex global coordinate transport rates. That's when you pretend to be rotating around a globe as you go, as you walk or fly. That's what they're eliminating. Don't need it. Here's one of my favorites, and I post it all the time. I'll post this right up next. And I'll speak on it a little bit more. This is by Peyton Allen, the incorporation of a differential global positioning system in the control of a UAV. U.S. Naval Postgraduate School, 1997. Peyton Allen's thesis tackles the absolute core problem of early autonomous flight. GPS natively outputs coordinates relative to the center of the globe. However, an aircraft's internal sensors, the INS, which measures pitch, roll, and yaw, operate strictly relative to the flat local horizon. Peyton Allen's work compares attempting to navigate using raw global coordinates versus mathematically converting that satellite data into a local tangent plane, which is a flat Earth model pinned to a runway. Quote, the purpose of this thesis is to incorporate the global positioning system and inertial navigation system for the guidance of an unmanned aerial vehicle seeking precise navigation in a local tangent plane. By applying the GPS technique, differential positioning technique, position data becomes more accurate. That's when you use ground towers to enrich your satellite data, by the way, called RTK, real-time kinematics. Anyway, continues. This position can then be referenced to a known location on the ground in order to give the aircraft's position in the local tangent plane. So to understand why this is a huge gaping discrepancy, you got to think about how the drone's brain flies an aircraft. So to keep an airplane in the air, the drone's brain, the autopilot, has to run a fast polling rate, high speed loops of commands to constantly track and assess wind resistance, velocity and trajectory changes of wind, air pressure, temperature, and it's doing this rapidly. And if the drone attempts to run these calculations using spherical coordinates provided by satellites alone, the computer has to execute this crazy nonlinear spherical trig for every single tiny adjustment. And it actually produces discrepancies. First, there's going to be some floating point error calculations just because they're using spherical math on a CPU. Um, Basically, you're going to get a bunch of rounding and errors from trying to calculate linear flight paths off a curved topology, topographical surface. It's a mathematical surface too. You're also going to get a mismatch of data. So the drone's internal gyroscopes, which is the IMU or INS, they don't measure curvature, they don't measure rotation. They feel only physical flat acceleration of aircraft and flat vector changes. You can't mathematically fuse this flat sensor data, this azimuths and elevation angles, with spherical GPS without tearing everything apart. Everyone knows this, which is part of the problem here. So if you scale the consequence of this discrepancy up, let's say you take a UAV on a 5-mile flight to um, approach a runway, and it's attempting to guide itself in, land itself on the runway, and it's using pure spherical geodetic mapping. There's a scale factor distortion, which is like what I talked about earlier, like with the UTM map, 400 part per million, which compounds error along with the latency of the spherical math and all the polling that's being done by the systems. The aircraft's altitude calculations will end up diverging from the physical ground with each iteration of calculation. At 100 miles per hour, a map distortion of a few feet vertically or horizontally means the landing gear is going to miss the tarmac and the drone is going to plow into the dirt. So it's very important these things are going to get highly precise so that it can land. The whole point of a drone that can land and take off again is to reuse the asset. So Peyton Allen's thesis is a mathematical proof that in order to achieve precise autonomous flight, the spherical model has to be discarded by the flight computer at some point. The differential GPS system then provides the raw location and reckoning data. But the absolute first step is to just take that information and throw it into a local tangent plane, flatten the Earth mathematically around a single reference point being the drone. And that spherical distortion goes away. The INS and GPS can then speak the same flat Earth language as the rest of the world, and the UAV hits the center line of the runway perfectly. Let me post that.
And does that also have something to do with the way the latitudes and longitudes work on a spherical map versus a flat Earth map, where they're smaller at the North Pole and get larger and just continually get larger on the flat Earth map versus they go on a spherical map, they start small at North Pole, get wider as you go to the equator, and then go back narrow again as you go down south? Does that have to do something with that? Because I remember that ship pilots had problems with their reckoning because they weren't where they thought they were supposed to be and stuff like that. Does that have something to do with that?
Oh, it does. And let me explain something to you and the rest of the audience, someone who knows this stuff really well. All right. Latitude and longitude is spherical, always and forever. It's not a flat Earth coordinate system. Longitude, even on a flat Earth map, is tapering towards a common meeting point in the south. It's not displayed that way on paper. It's not drawn that way. It looks like a bicycle wheel that's been laid down, and the center of the bicycle wheel having spokes going out to an outer ring. That's not the flat Earth. What they're depicting is latitude and longitude using a flat projection, where the second point of origin, the first being the North Pole, the second point of origin in the south, instead of being a point to which all the lines of longitude converge, is displayed as a ring going around the out perimeter of the map. Now, here's the issue. The longitude is on the map, actually on the map converging to a point. So if you go to 89 degrees north latitude, let's say you were just 69 miles, 60 nautical miles from the geographic North Pole, wherever that is. Hypothetically, let's say that you could go there. All right. And you trace a circle. Let's say you follow 89 degrees east and you go in a gigantic circle around the North Pole. You will travel about 430 miles, hypothetically, okay, on this map. Referencing the flat Earth map, I'll call it the Gleason's map, whatever. If you look at 89 degrees south, that's almost as far as you can go to the outer edge of that circular map. If you're to go to 89 degrees south latitude and follow east, you're also going to go 430 miles. But it looks like it's going to be 60,000 miles. But if you use that map properly, that map has a scale. Yes, the flat pizza frisbee Earth map has a scale, and that scale is not uniform. It's variable. It's a sliding scale. Distances east and west get distorted on the map relative to the projection as you move further out, because this is a globe that's being projected. It's not a flat Earth map. So it doesn't do any good if you continuously if people like flat earthers out there trying to work on models, they're taking latitude and longitude maps and they're always trying to flatten them out to see if they can get it to work. And it's never going to work because it's a topological mismatch. You're taking two different surfaces that don't have the same geometry. One's Euclidean, one's non-Euclidean. So with the curving surface, you're going to get a bunch of like imaginary numbers, irrational numbers, and you're going to end up with non-terminating numbers and negative square roots and crap like that, trying to work with it. In reality here doesn't work that way. So that's why it's incoherent trying to project a flat surface onto a curve or vice versa and not expecting distortions. So yeah, that Gleason's map is a globe.
That's really good info. I appreciate that. I've not heard that before, so that's awesome.
Yeah, there are a lot of flat earthers who haven't realized this yet. It hasn't clicked. They're still trying to shoehorn this. But what we need a map that doesn't use latitude, longitude. Why do I say that? Because latitude and longitude is a system of navigation that originated out of the sky, and not just out of the sky as you experience it, but out of interpreting the sky a very specific and certain way, interpreting the motions of the stars as if they are inside a celestial sphere, rotating around the observer. So if you were to try and map 69 miles per degree of rotation in the sky, which for a glober is going to be a great circle route, you'll be able to understand the topological issue after you get past 180 degrees. Right? Where are you going to go? You start on one side of the Earth where Polaris is on the horizon. And let's say that you travel underneath Polaris, it rises up and then it sets on the other side, the other horizon. You've just traveled 180 degrees. What happens if you go another degree? Where are you going? What happens when you go 359 degrees? What happens when you go 360 degrees? See what I'm saying? The degree system is intrinsically linked to spherical geometry here.
Okay, so basically you're saying on the globe, it starts small, it goes down to big, and then goes small again. All the planners that have been doing with those same things is just placing it on top. So basically you go from the North Pole to the equator and nowhere else. Because it's a projection,
yeah, that's right. That's what you're stuck with. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. That's awesome. Oh, yeah.
Right. So where is the South Pole and what is it, right? What is this on a flat Earth? I don't freaking know. Could there be multiple South Poles? Could the South Pole be a place you never reach? You always walk towards it, and let's say it stops rotating in your field of view at some point, and you end up walking for thousands and thousands, thousands and thousands of miles, and the South Pole isn't rotating anymore. Or what if it rotates faster than you expected? You cover a lot less ground than you thought you needed to, and it's a lot smaller. Or what if you keep walking and something anomalous happens in the sky and there's another point of rotation, a third pole? Nobody freaking knows. Or what if the Earth is flat and the sky actually does have two points of rotation on it? That's fine. I'm fine with that too. I have no issue with that. What I have an issue with is knowing that people are using the globe and have not actually tested the 69-to-1 rule to independently verify that happens consistently everywhere on Earth. Because if it did without mitigation, and by mitigation I mean some kind of ad hoc corrections, then if you were to go in any direction and watch a rotation happen where 69 miles are traveled per 1 degree, you're expressing a spherical, a curving surface. Necessarily? Probably not. I mean, I can come up with exotic counter examples, but I don't feel I need to. Because Globy's got it. They got their explanations. They're superficial, whatever. They don't feel like they need to go rigorously test anything because they feel that somebody else may have done it, and they're happy. They'll go about their day, but it's not enough for us. The fact that we measure the Earth flat means we've debunked latitude and longitude as being precise and exact calculations of distances between things. Right? The only way people think they know the distance between New York and Paris is because they calculate each of the local coordinates separated by a map distance between them. They're calculating the map distance between coordinate A and coordinate B. They haven't actually measured it. And furthermore, they not only know the distance, but they don't know what the orientation actually is.
About the drones they use on Ukraine.
Yeah.
They don't rely on GPS. So let me see. They are using these two systems. Let's see. Just a second. So they use the Oscar and the Eagle Eyes. So it's two different systems. So they rely. So the drone on board has preloaded maps, or even from photos they took, and then they did stitch together, It's different system from GPS. Those two options there.
Why everybody is mute?
We were just talking, like you literally came in to the middle of the conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry if I interrupt you guys.
And everybody's muted so we don't pause the conversation with all our noise and shit.
Mhm.
All right, I got some more choice quotes here. Let's see. The Federal Highway Construction Crisis by Michael Dennis, from Transferring Highway Construction to Local Coordinate Systems. Report by the Transportation Research Board of the National Academies 2012. The Transportation Research Board, funded by the federal government, commissioned this report to explicitly address the crisis occurring when departments of transportation tried to use the spherical geodetic GPS grid to design and build state highways. The report compares the mathematically distorted grid distances of a spherical Earth model against the true physical ground distances required by construction crews to actually lay asphalt and connect bridge girders. Quote, map projection systems such as the State Plane Coordinate System and UTM, Universal Transverse Mercator, inherently distort horizontal distances. As a consequence, grid distances will not match distances measured on the ground. Such discrepancies can lead to significant problems in construction layout if not properly addressed. The most effective method for minimizing these discrepancies is the development of low distortion projections. There's that phrase again, that are scaled to the topographic surface. An LDP is a map projection designed to minimize linear distortion such that the projection surface is brought close to the topographic surface of the Earth, which in this case is being treated as flat. This is a huge discrepancy because it shows that the globe is considered a literal construction hazard by the National Academies of Sciences and Engineering. If a state department of transportation attempts to use the government's official spherical coordinate system, like UTM, to build a highway, this report confirms that the blueprints will not match distances on the ground. The globe mathematically stretches or shrinks the highway, and so severely that the concrete, steel, and asphalt physically will not fit together when the construction crews arrive. All right. To prevent these
couple dozen.
significant
Sorry,
problems in
sorry.
construction, layout, the federal government explicitly funded a 130-page textbook that teaches DOT engineers how to throw the globe away. The officially mandated solution is to create an LDP, a local flat tangent plane that completely bypasses the curvature of the Earth. By using an LDP, the engineers force the math to become the physical reality of a flat Earth, which allows a tape measure and a blueprint to achieve a true one-to-one match. When you want to build physical infrastructure across America, the highest engineering authorities in the nation dictate you have to flatten the Earth. Here we go, post that.
A couple of days ago, somebody was talking about that very thing, and this dude came on. He's like, they only use the flat Earth map because it works better than the globe now. And I was like, oh wow, yeah, I think that needs to be pretty precise for doing those things like construction. But I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, be like, I don't trust the globe either. I agree. I don't trust the globe either.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure math isn't like better one way or another. I'm pretty sure one's correct and one's not. That's how math works.
Here's another one, the CERN facility. Yeah, this is a fun one because it's that creepy, demonic facility in Switzerland, the particle accelerator. Okay, the CERN 3D Euclidean flat Earth. This is by M. Jones and al. Geodetic parametrization of the CNGS project, European Organization for Nuclear Research, 2003. The physicists at CERN had to align the underground magnets of the accelerator complex with absolute microscopic precision. They compared the standard geographic geodetic globe coordinates like WGS84 and the Italian Gauss-Boaga frame against the mathematical reality of what the particle beam actually required. To make the machine work, they discarded the geodetic sphere and locked the entire 27-kilometer facility into a custom, flat Cartesian plane. Quote, the reference frame used at CERN to describe the position and orientation of all the geodetically aligned elements of all accelerators is a 3D Euclidean reference frame referred to as the CERN coordinate system. The CERN coordinate system, or CCS, is a modified local astronomical system. The principal point is the pillar P0 at the center of the PS. The z-axis of this system is by definition coincident with the gravity vector at P0. A horizontal geodetic datum was established with the topocentric set of datum parameters. The principal point was once again chosen to be the geodetic pillar P0, and the ellipsoid normal is coincident with the z-axis of the CCS. Note, this is further corroborated by CERN presentations on the layout. Each projection, it says, distorts reality and may introduce scale factor. The plane in which the trajectory is computed is considered tangent to the ellipsoid, end quote. So this is a fatal blow to the globe because in order to understand this, you have to look at what the 3D Euclidean reference frame means. So Euclidean geometry, which we were talking about before, just briefly, is a strict mathematical set of principles defining a flat space. It is the geometry of flat Earth, geometry of reality, where parallel lines never intersect, angles of triangles add to 180. The surface of the globe, by comparison, is non-Euclidean. It's called actually Riemannian geometry. So the Large Hadron Collider has a ring that's about 5.3 miles wide. It's about 8.6 kilometers. So according to the math of the globe, the curvature of the Earth is dropping by almost 19 feet. That's 5.8 meters over that distance from one side of the Large Hadron Collider ring to the other. If the CERN engineers attempted to map the position of those electromagnets using spherical coordinates, the geometric scale factors and curvature reductions would literally warp the mathematical shape of this ring that they were building. A circle mapped on a sphere has a different mathematical circumference than a circle mapped on a flat plane, right? Because the radius of the circle can't curve. Radii at all do not curve. You'd have the difference between a chord distance and an arc length, if that were the case. At 99.9999% the speed of light, you can't have a scale factor difference between the math and the physical vacuum tube. So if the math says the magnet is 2 millimeters to the left because of some geodetic curvature reduction, the particle beam would blow a hole in the side of the machine. So the physicists, they smashed the globe. They threw it in the trash. They established pillar P0 as the absolute center of their CERN universe for the entire building site. That is to say, there is no, there was no reciprocal zenith angle differential that was necessary because all verticals were perpendicular to a horizontal, flat, and orthogonal. There was no common vertical center like in the center of Earth. The verticals were parallel to each other and normal to the surface. That's right. For CERN that they built. They built the entire site off of a checkerboard, not a curving swath of a globe. And they had to do it this way. So here we go. I'm going to post that too in the side chat.
Yeah, that's kind of like the first topic of necessities right there.
Tired of winning yet?
I mean, this is all new stuff to me, man. So I'm loving it. This is good shit.
Yeah, we do original research here. Most flat earthers and flat earth community people out there, like TikTok, X, Facebook, and so on, even YouTube, like they stole our content for the past 10 years. Make videos. And it's like it's okay. It's okay. I don't care who steals. I just want this info out. All right, where else can I go with this? I'm just going. I've got a bunch of these. I'm going to pick out maybe one more or two to read. Let's see. Oh yeah, Autodesk. This is kind of funny. You know, like the people make AutoCAD. Autodesk. It's a guy named Ken Martinez. He wrote in this article called "Beyond State Plane: A look at custom ground coordinate systems." Autodesk University published to their site. Autodesk, the creator of AutoCAD, the undisputed industry standard for civil engineering software and architecture, hosted this presentation addressing what happens when users try to design real-world projects on the default globe. Quote, "The dilemma with coordinate systems in AutoCAD. All the out-of-the-box coordinate systems are in the globe grid. Globe grid distances do not equal true ground distances. Survey plots and legal descriptions cannot be in the grid here, or can they? Engineering and construction plans cannot be in grid, or can they? The grid versus ground dilemma, a possible resolution? Can we create a custom ground coordinate system defined with a combined scale factor for distances that are true? We can. It satisfies the needs of everyone, surveying, engineering, construction, and GIS. The leading engineering software ecosystem in the world admits that grid distances do not equal ground distance. That's right, the globe grid does not equal the ground. This presentation bluntly asks if engineering and construction plans can be done on a geodetic grid, and it concludes the only way to get the true distances is create a flat Earth custom ground plane, forcing people to choose between their love of the globe and a flat Earth. All right. How about Jesse Kozlowski, the main surveyor? He wrote this paper in 2006. You know, he hates us, right? He's a surveyor. People on the other side of this argument, they like to bring up his reciprocal zenith angle demonstrations. But he wrote this paper. I happened to stumble upon it, called GPS and EDM Measurements. Why don't they match? This is 2006, so probably well before the flat Earth thing was in his mind or anyone else's. All right. An incredibly practical hands-on demonstration shows what happens when a surveyor measures the physical distance with an electronic distance measuring device, a laser that measures a true planar distance, versus inversing the coordinates given by the spherical globe via GPS. He writes in his paper, the first thing you would probably do is measure the distance with your electronic distance measurement device. After reducing the slope distance to a horizontal distance, you might record something very close to what you intended, 354.838 meters. As it turns out, this distance is actually the ground distance between these two marks. When you inverse the pair of state plane coordinates, you get that this distance is very different from the one you measured. The inverse grid length is 354.8048 meters, which is 33 millimeters shorter than what you just measured with lasers. What's going on here? Over a distance of 354 meters, the mathematical curvature, sea level reductions that are forced on GPS, steals 33 millimeters of distance. If an engineer cuts a steel beam to the GPS length, the beam will fall through a gap. That's what we're talking about right here. And by the way, how much drop over distance should there be in 354 millimeters? About 9 to 10 millimeters, I think. And here it's off by 33 millimeters, the globe is, based off of a laser rangefinder. So it's interesting. It's interesting how the main surveyor wrote a paper in 2006, 10 years before this flat Earth thing exploded, basically saying that, hey, my electronic distance measuring device actually gets a true ground distance that doesn't match the globe.
Experience where my ex-girlfriend's dad is an engineer who designs bridges that go on the interstates,
Yeah.
and including a big one that goes over a huge chasm. And I simply just asked him, I was like, hey man, do you ever, you're designing all these bridges on the interstates, do you ever have to adjust for the Earth's curve? He's a shy dude, so he didn't want to really go into that because he knew where I was going, but he was like, no.
Oregon Department of Transportation by Ranveer Singh et al. The Oregon Coordinate Reference System, a surveying approach for supporting geospatial-based technologies in transportation applications by the Federal Highway Administration, 2016. The Oregon Department of Transportation discovered that the standard geodetic coordinates, the Oregon State Plane, were actively sabotaging their 3D highway engineering models. They had to scrap the system and build the Oregon Coordinate Reference System using flat Earth models to make their concrete and steel fit together. The damning quote reads, "The history of surveying practices and the current challenges of working with legacy coordinate reference systems helped Oregon DOT identify major issues to eliminate or avoid. ODOT created a new coordinate reference system that minimized distortion to achieve values as close as possible to reality. ODOT consulted with a professional geodetic consultant to come up with a mathematical solution to calculate a system. It produced the least distortion possible based on the topographic characteristics of the state." The DOT, why this matters. DOT realized that the standard Oregon state plane geodetic math did not work for the heavy highway construction they needed. They had to spend millions of dollars to develop a localized flat planar system that eliminated Earth curvature from their blueprints. I'll post that one. Yep, this is everywhere. Like every time you dig into the literature, this isn't saying that all these people believe that the Earth is flat. Like they believe they're justified in what they're doing. They still believe the Earth is a globe. But they're going through the entire process of erasing it from their work while keeping it in the observation.
Wow, that last one's crazy. That's super interesting. Can't wait to go through all of these in a bit more depth.
It is crazy.
No, they only use the flat Earth map because it works better.
All right. I think I'll do two more. These are some of my favorites. the NATO Sapphire trials. These were military surveyors in the Chesapeake Bay analyzing the behavior of light over water for the purpose of improving their ability to track targets over the ocean. Pretty hardcore, right? Like surveyors who get shot at for a living are probably operate under a different set of parameters than surveyors who don't get shot at while they're surveying. So anyway, there are two NATO teams, one German, one Netherlands, who surveyed this. And this is for an effort sponsored by the U.S. Naval Research Lab. So I got both teams. I'll read the German team, German Sapphire Trial, literally seeing through the curve. This is by Karen Stein and Dirk Siefer, titled The Sapphire Trial, Investigations on Angular Deviation Caused by Refraction. I'll post this in a minute. The German team set up a high-end infrared camera to record a series of lights mounted on an island across the Chesapeake Bay. They were testing whether the standard spherical Earth models accurately predicted the visual elevation of targets over warm water. It reads, quote, in the Sapphire trial, the purpose of this test was to investigate the influence of changing weather conditions on the apparent elevation of a target. Therefore, we set up an infrared camera overlooking the Chesapeake Bay, observing a set of lights installed on an island in 16 kilometers distance. An infrared camera system was fixed on a pier at an altitude of 6.5 meters. The camera continuously recorded. With these recordings, we obtained 24 hours of observations of refraction effects. So let's look at the setup. The German camera was placed at an elevation of 6.5 meters. On a globe with a radius of 71 kilometers on average, the geometric horizon for that lens is exactly 9.1 kilometers away, but the target was 16 kilometers away. The target was sitting nearly 7 kilometers beyond the physical curvature of the Earth. Mathematically, the lights should have been hidden behind roughly 13 feet or 3.9 meters of bulging water. Yet the German infrared cameras recorded the lights continuously for 24 hours. The physical curvature of the Earth was nowhere to be found in the camera lens. In order to explain why the camera was staring across what appeared to be a perfectly flat plane of water, the physicists have invoked extreme atmospheric refraction to claim the light rays were bending perfectly around the globe. Let's get on to what that means. So this is where the Dutch Sapphire team came in. This is by Arie de Jong. Title is Refraction Measurements and Modeling over the Chesapeake Bay During NATO Sapphire Trials, June 2006. Working alongside the Germans, the Dutch team used a geodetic theodolite, which is an extremely precise optical surveying instrument, to measure the exact absolute angle of arrival of light coming from targets 16.2 kilometers away. They compared the physical light hitting their lens against the bulk model of refraction, which the standard military mathematical was used, calculating Earth's curvature and atmospheric bending. Here's the damning quote. It says, by means of a geodetic theodolite, absolute angles of arrival were measured for a set of lights at various altitudes located on the other side of the bay at a distance of 16.2 kilometers. It was found that the temperature profile generated by the bulk model for the marine surface layer is incorrect, resulting in deviations in the angle of attack compared to the data from the theodolite. A set of empirical temperature profiles has been created to force the math to fit well with the measurements during the trials period, end quote. Doesn't that sound like what people do with Walter Bisland's tool? So not only could the Dutch team optically see the targets, the same ones the Germans did, which should have been buried behind Earth's curvature, but their highly precise surveying equipment measured the light arriving at angles that broke the military's standard spherical refraction models. When the physical observations contradicted the spherical globe model, the standard math failed, and to save the geometric integrity of the targeting software, the Dutch team had to create a new profile that mathematically justified why their laser was acting exactly as it would on a flat Earth. Hope you guys got that. I might have been disconnected partway through. All right, so the Dutch team had to alter their refraction model that the military uses by an error margin of 2 orders of magnitude. They had to expand the allowable tolerance of error for the temperature variance by 2 orders of magnitude in order to explain what they were seeing. Sounds exactly like what people do with Walter Bislin's, refraction slider. If you do backfitting in an academic environment, you'll get called out and blackballed. You'll never work anywhere serious, I don't think. But I mean, when it comes to the globe, it's all justified. It's justified because everybody believes it's true. It has to be true. So we got to make the data fit no matter what. That's what's going on. That's what's been going on very intensely for the past 100 years. Much more slowly, but without wavering for maybe 500 years. It all started with the age of philosophy. You've got these Greeks in their togas going up on mountains, getting high off of fungus and watching the stars. Totally serious. Envision a celestial sphere, a concept that everybody laughs at today, but a concept that was used to define a globe and give us our modern navigation system. A concept that is still used in modern astronomy, the celestial sphere. And it's not even true. It's not true by the globe's admissions, because yeah, let's face it, globers, you're not geocentrists for the most part, right? You believe the Earth is in a solar system. It's not true amongst flat earthers. I mean, we don't see a celestial sphere. That is an interpretation. It's subjective. It's a choice. And because it's a choice, the map is a choice. The coordinate reference system is a choice. The grid that you use is a choice. Does it work? Yeah. Is it accurate? Well, depends. It's kind of like when you use your Garmin or GPS, whatever. It may take you longer to get you where you need to go. You're not sure if there's a faster way to go at this point in time, but it's consistent. It'll get you there. It works. Does that mean it's getting you there the shortest way? Not necessarily. I think this is what's been going on with latitude and longitude. Like, yes, it'll get you to where you need to go, but what are the true distances, true orientations of things? We don't know. We can put it all on a grid, on a globe, and be done. We can go about our business. Yeah, the globe explains some things, and it can, ease your psychological worry and doubt about the world. But as a flat earther, I think there are much bigger and better explanations, more scientifically rigorous ones too, than what the mainstream offers. Absolutely. Not just because I may not have the creativity to come up with them doesn't mean that the Earth is not flat. What proves the flat Earth are all these measurements and observations in the first place that contradict the globe. Plenty more to go. I'm not done uploading, but got a lot of citations uploaded to our home server and to our Pickled Minds server. Some are going to be better than others, but this is going to be great. I think. Yeah, I think those in the audience, you guys are right. Like this can serve as a springboard into further research. I'm giving this to you, the community, to take with and run. Come up with a new list. Use this as a starting point to come up with like a new set of 50 documents in the flat Earth. Come up with a new video and focus on surveying and satellites and GPS. How they have to dispense with the quaint little globe notion each and every time and operate under a flat coordinate plane assumption in order to improve accuracy. It's not necessarily about reducing complexity, even though that's certainly happening. And you'll see a lot of cases to be made for using a flat Earth. We're reducing complexity, reducing complexity, reducing complexity. Why did NASA release their derivation of a linear flight model? Because they reduce complexity. Well, guess what? It also freaking works. It also matches reality. And that's the important thing. These distances match reality. The flat Earth matches flat measurements. I mean, shocker. Yeah, so what's everybody do? What are airplanes doing when they fly from like Japan to LA? I mean, they're going whatever way the coordinate system takes them. Is it not the most efficient way? Well, how much does efficiency matter? Oh, but won't the airlines save lots of money if you show them the true path and get rid of the globe path and show them the true flat Earth path? I don't know. I don't know about that. If the globe path happens to match flat Earth path in most cases, what if the globe path and the flat Earth path are statistically insignificantly largely different from each other? Or what if you just don't know what path you should be taken because the government has restricted you to a certain number of miles from the coastline? So if you have engine problems or cabin pressure problems or some issue with the flight, that you can land your plane at the nearest airport safely and not be out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, that also happens. Flight corridors are a real thing. Flight corridors eliminate your ability to actually use the airplane as some kind of globe measuring device. So what else is out there, right? You got to use lasers, got to use radio, got to use long distance observations, including infrared. We got to get out there, people. And we got to keep making these observations. We got to keep doing it because each one of these is going to show that latitude, longitude, outside of any error corrections mitigation, is not matching the Earth and can be used to conceal land, can be used to route people into places away from where you want them to, or where you in places you want them to be and away from places you don't want them to be. So yeah, maps are extremely powerful. You better believe that like the king of the realm wants to keep all the good maps for himself because he wants to know where all the resources are. Right? If maps were free and open as much as people want them to be, those who have interest in acquiring resources in the world would take issue with that. I'd say the most precise maps should be guarded under the highest levels of secrecy. If I was in charge, hell yeah. And I might even survey the realm myself and conduct it secretly as much as I could so nobody knows that I'm surveying the realm. Because nobody saw that I was interested in surveying the realm, nobody would think that I'm suspecting something's wrong with the current maps. And I can take my new compilation of the data and I can classify it and only read certain people onto it who need to develop technology that allows me to use it. Meanwhile, the rest of the world can get this GPS nonsense. Yep.
I think you're nonsense.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear what you think. I'm sorry, something I can do for you regarding that? Do you want some butthurt cream?
Like, is everyone here in this channel right now flat earther?
Yeah, almost everyone is. Welcome.
Hey, my friend of the nonsense comment. What are you? How can you describe that his factual information that he has presented, or maybe what the information that has been presented in here is nonsense? Why will you say that, though?
Yeah, I would say both because you're like flat earthers and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but you remember you have something called your vestibular system that is liquid in your inner canals, right? It's part of your sensory, part of your sensing, your senses, right?
That's right.
And this tells you that you have an orientation which is horizontal and flat, right? To the flatness and the horizontal horizontal orientation of the world.
The most stupid argument I ever heard. The most stupid.
Those are your senses. Your senses make sense, though.
No, they don't, because I'm mentally ill and I cannot read my senses.
Oh, your senses make no sense? Is that what you're arguing for?
Yeah, therefore the Earth is not flat and it's a globe.
Oh, but when we measure the Earth, right, we use tools and we use our senses to, use those tools and to verify that our senses make sense. Obviously, you have a limitation of your senses, right? That's why we make equipment that will take our senses perception beyond
but you don't even believe in that shit.
And when you use this equipment, when you use your senses to make this equipment, you can confirm that your senses make sense.
Yeah, I made a telescope and I'm looking at the stars. What am I looking at?
Oh, you're looking
You
at something
just
called
said what you're looking.
observable phenomena. Observable phenomena. Yes.
You just said
Yeah,
what you're
it's
looking.
You use your eyes. Yes, and you use your senses to look through the monoscope, the telescope, and you observe the observable phenomena.
What kind of silly question is that? When I take out my telescope, I look at the stars. What am I looking at? You just said the goddamn answer before you said the question.
Okay, so it proves that the Earth is a globe because there are stars out there.
What kind of dumbass
How
reply
would it
is
make?
that?
Go ahead. I was gonna ask him, and then you can take over. Whoever else. How does it make sense to look away from the thing in question, the Earth, right? The Earth, and you looking at something else and claiming that you can determine what you're standing on? That doesn't make sense.
By that logic, there's a lamp above the floor in your room. Therefore, the floor is convex. What type of shit is that?
Yeah, it sounds like your logic is making no sense. But you told the other guy that, I mean, he's making no sense, but you're the one making no sense, bro. What's happening?
What about like the, I don't know, but your logic makes no sense with these planes and with these rockets. They are like real phenomena.
Everything that we've been talking about for the past hour has nothing to do with any of our math or any of our research. That's from all the surveyors, DOTs, bridge building guys. That's all their stuff. That's none of our stuff. That's all of their mathematical equations that they use, that they say they have to use on a flat Earth. Nothing we've been talking about for the past hour is any of our research. We're just listening to the professionals who say it's flat Earth.
Okay. Jesus, that's like so weird that so many people believe this flat Earth bullshit.
You know
Do
what's
you actually
weird? That you
have a
have.
refutation or not? Yes or no? Answer me. Yes or no?
No.
Exactly. So you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Be quiet.
Yo, that's pretty weird. You said that people in here are weird, but people in here, they know what they're talking about. You, the one that have no idea what you're talking about, weird.
Yeah, like, do you see curvature, dude? Do you?
No, I don't, because
No,
it's
we don't either.
we
Okay, so we're not crazy.
so how do you define, how do you explain day and night?
The sun comes and goes.
Like how it has legs or something?
Flat Earth
The
gravity.
fuck?
I don't know.
Why do you don't know, bro?
The same way you don't know shit that you don't know.
No, I know. Like I know how
What the fuck you
gravity
mean
works.
no?
You don't know how
How else do people
gravity
not know
works.
things? The same way you don't know
Okay,
things.
but like making a globe from something, it makes sense. Like
Only because of your
you
bias. You have a bias. It
no,
makes sense
no, it's
because of your
not
bias, because
bias.
everybody else believes it. You believed it your whole life.
No,
That's all it is.
okay, you have a stone, yeah, a pile of stones, and you like create something out of the stones. So, like, so the gravity works like this, yeah, it works from every single direction, and it collects the stone together, and the result is a ball or a globe.
How do you know gravity
Look, you're
works
not
in every
teaching us gravity.
direction?
We know the
That's silly.
doctrine.
Gravity
Yeah,
We
works
know
in
the
every
doctrine.
direction?
yeah, in 3
How do you
dimensions, the way
know?
it works.
How do you know that? I know what it even is.
Yeah,
Okay,
to
but
follow on that question, listen,
I can
buddy.
experience the gravity
Sir,
with my senses, with my senses I can
sir,
experience
real
it.
Me
quick,
too.
sir. Just follow on his question to you. Which of your senses do you utilize to observe gravity conforming rock, like you said, into spheres? Which of your senses do you use to observe that phenomena happening?
I use my sight, so my eyes.
With your eyes, you saw gravity forming rocks into balls? You saw that?
No,
Yeah.
no, I didn't. Okay, but
Oh, so
I
you
s-
didn't.
yeah, but what the fuck, bro? Like, so
Did you
you
see
claim
fish
that?
evolving into animals like monkeys too?
No, I don't see this. Like, but it
Yeah, it's
happened.
silly, right?
They
Mhm.
evolved. Yeah.
And you know this because
Wait, you're saying that there was no evolution?
yeah, that's stupid too.
Your cosmogonic doctrine is dumb shit.
What
Dumber
the
than dog
No
fuck?
shit.
idea.
Obviously, there was like evolution. Like, you have
What do
all
you mean,
these like,
obviously? Let me ask you a question.
yeah.
Are there essentially different animals, yes or no?
Yes, there are.
Oh, they are? So then you believe the asinine, stupid ass notion that humans were spawned by non humans.
Humans respond by non-humans? I
Let me
don't
say again.
understand this.
Let me say again. That's obviously not what I said. You believe the stupid ass notion that humans were spawned, right? Were generated by, birthed by, or laid in eggs and then hatched out of eggs by non humans or some shit like that. You believe a non human animal birthed or generated a human. What the fuck is wrong with
In
you?
the process, yeah, in the process of evolution, that's right. Like when
What
you
do you mean
like
that's right?
count
That's
in.
obviously wrong. It's not a thing.
What the fuck, bro? You're like brainwashed or
So,
something.
buddy, again, remember your initial premise. You guys make no sense. Now tell me, which of your senses do you use and employed to observe this evolution thing that you picture in your mind? Which of your senses do you use?
Mostly sight, yeah. I can read about evolution, for example.
Where in the
You
physical
can
and
read the
natural
doc.
world do you observe humans coming from non-humans?
Okay, I observe in the similarity, like I have a thumb and the apes, actually called like humankind monkeys, let's say, also have the thumb, and they are like, gathering in groups, the same as humans do.
Sounds to me that the nonsensical person in this room is you, sir. That's the
No,
person that is
it
making
doesn't.
nonsense. You.
No, it doesn't. That's the proof for evolution, non-direct, that we have something in common with apes, because we are kind of like apes, humans.
That is entirely stupid. That's why that's why I just asked you the question I just asked you. You believe the stupid ass notion that is entirely false and known to be false, that that which is essentially different from humans, or essentially different from tigers, or essentially different from frogs, or essentially different from cockroaches, or essentially different from fruit flies, is not going to spawn those fucking beasts, etc., etc.
No, it's gonna
What do you
spawn
mean no?
those fucking beasts. So I mean, it's gonna spawn
Show me
humans
an instance of that
eventually.
happening. Besides you just
I mean,
believing this and saying this.
no, because you cannot observe this in your
What do you mean
lifetime.
no? Yeah, of course you can. So you don't fucking know it. It's just a
Hmm.
notion you people believe.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It
It's
obviously
like,
is. Fucking me, no, it isn't. You don't
bro,
have
can
any
you like?
substance, no empirical evidence
I think you
that
should
shows us
focus on.
that humans are spawned by non-humans. While you come in here with your disrespect and your condescending attitude, acting like you know better than us, saying stupid shit
Yeah,
like
because
humans are
I
spawned by
know better
non-humans,
than I
and you
know
can't
better
show us
than
a
you.
single instance of this happening, or any record or any evidence that is happening at all. It's just your stupid ass notion
Uh,
that you interpret bones and different genetic anatomical differences between humans and non-human animals.
yes, you're saying this correctly, that there are anatomical differences. So why
It
are
it
why are
doesn't
there even
strongly indicate, let alone necessarily indicate,
You
they
keep
were spawned
interrupting
from
him.
non-human.
You keep interrupting him.
Now you're
I
interrupting
think he's
me.
done. Okay, so like many different
Ridiculous.
animals are adjusted to different environments. So that's also like a
Adjusted
proof for,
by what?
yeah, adjusted.
Yeah, by what?
I
Who
mean,
did the adjusting?
they may have different like beaks if there are birds.
Who did the
They may
adjusting?
have who they are adjusting themselves to
No, they
survive.
didn't. They didn't make themselves. Fuck you talking about?
What are you, like, dumb or something?
They did not fucking make themselves.
They
You sound dumb as
adjusted
hell.
themselves.
Did you make yourself?
I didn't. I have
No.
parents.
Did your
Yeah?
mama make
My
make
parents.
herself?
My mama was made by her mama.
Did your daddy make himself?
He was made by his mama.
Yeah. So not a single human. You can just go on and on to every human made themselves. What about the tiger? Show me the tiger that made itself.
Oh, but that just proves evolution.
But, hello, show me the tiger that made himself.
I know, bro, but there are some animals who can make
Yeah,
themselves.
just ignore my question because you obviously know
Yeah,
that you
but
can't.
you know that there are some animals who can make themselves.
And I raise your voice because you can't answer my question.
Like
Talk about
fish
they adjusted themselves.
or some lizards. It's called parthenogenesis, so they can make a clone of themselves. Yeah?
Hello.
They can make
There's no beast cloning themselves.
no
They
beast.
mate
Like,
and they
no.
and they spawn children. Fuck are you talking about?
But I think the highest animal, like the biggest animal that can clone himself, is Komodo dragon. So he's like pretty fucking big.
What
And
the fuck are you talking about? Can you stop yapping with dumb shit? Talk about cloning. They're not cloning themselves. They're not building laboratories and doing epigenetic manipulation and genetic splicing. The fuck are you talking about?
Okay, that's cloning in the sense like that the offspring has the same genetic material as the parent in this sense.
The fuck you talking about cloning for when you're just talking about spawning offspring?
Yeah, it's called, like, I don't know, humans have to have sex in order to reproduce.
Hello, so why are you yapping about cloning? Just speak normally like a normal human being who has a modicum of sense. You're talking about fucking and spawning children, spawning offspring. That's fucking cloning.
Oh my god, you're really dumb. I don't know why you exist even.
Oh, all of a sudden we're on this goddamn cloning shit when we were initially on the Earth and the shape of the Earth, and you having no argument whatsoever to refute us or to even prove that you know that the Earth is a ball. And then you started yapping about your stupid ass doctrine of evolution and yada yada yada. Now you're yapping about cloning. Be quiet or have a coherent conversation.
Yeah, but I know the Earth is a globe, bro.
Okay, so go ahead and show us the measurement. Go ahead and show us the actual instance of measuring the curvature.
What the fuck? This is like, no one does it, bro.
Do you forget how to speak English all of a sudden?
We were talking about people who do it when you first got in the room, bro.
I bet this guy doesn't even know the size of the globe or anything.
Let's ask him. Hey, what's the radius of the globe, according to your scientist clerics?
I don't know, like 4,000 kilometers, or I don't know, 10,000.
No, bro,
Incorrect.
way off.
Hella incorrect. By orders of magnitude, more than 2 times off. Talk about 10,000.
So 20,000?
Hey, you got it wrong. Okay, what about an easier question? Does it spin west to east or east to west?
I don't know.
How many times does it spin in one day?
Wait. East to west. I mean, you have the sun rises on the east, and okay, I went outside.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah, so you got it wrong. You don't even know which way the globe spins, bro.
First.
Yeah, we're the dumb ones. Oh, good lord.
Coming here all that goddamn disrespect. Yeah.
Oh, that was hilarious. Like that guy got wrecked. You guys were.
Flat Earth is so stupid with his foreign European, East European accent. Talk about Flat Earth is so stupid. We know his worldview more better than him. And at that rate, can you really call it his worldview when he is oblivious to it?
Damn it, he ran away before I asked him an even more dumbed down question of how many times does the Earth spin in one day? I bet he would have got that wrong as well.
See, that man embodied the common scientist, the common scientism believer, like that. That's what they produced out of out of the damn education system throughout Europe and the Europeanized world.
And the words are important to use too. He said, I know the earth is round. I know the earth is round. Now you believe because you've been told and read that the earth is a ball versus knowing that the earth is a ball with evidence of measurements in your eyes and reality and stuff like that. They tend to say, I know the earth is a ball. Now you believe there is no knowledge because none of it works.
Exactly. See, I know I'm different. I'm a different experience for these people, for these scientism believers. Because how could someone who doesn't believe scientism speak with such confidence and with such indignation and with such specificity and scrupulousness at me? How dare he? I'm really traumatic for a lot of these scientism believers. People like me have no reluctance.
Well, like I said, for the last hour before he spoke, we were just talking about all the papers that were published by the engineers and stuff and all their measurements and how they can't use globe math and building stuff and measuring stuff and surveying. And he finished, and the first thing he said, you guys are talking a bunch of nonsense. We were like, this is all the professional measurers and builders that are saying this, not us.
Yeah, but about evolution. Bunch of dumb garbage.
Oh yeah,
And of
no,
course,
that was way
their
off
scientist
topic
clerics
anyway.
are never going to tell them about the scientist clerics are never going to tell their laymen, their laity, about the scholars, the thousands, maybe not thousands, but hundreds of scholars who signed the Darwin's Descent document. Many scholars, they're not the majority, but many scholars, quote unquote, dissent from Darwinism.
I mean, they're gonna pull shit anyway, dude. They told us like dinosaurs are this, dinosaurs are this, dinosaurs are this for how many years, and then they just turn around and they're like 10 years ago or whatever, and they're like, oh, dinosaurs had feathers and everything, and we're like, okay, how did you not know this for the
Right.
past several hundred years?
Ridiculous. Like, what do you people? It just struck me. What you're sitting there in your living room or whatever, what have you, and you just watching the National Geographic or what's that other channel with David Attenborough where nature used to play. I forget the name of the channel. But you watch one of them channels, you just sitting there and you just listen to them say all this goddamn lore. Just go on and on and on, and they're going on for damn near every day or every week, and they go on for years. These shows last a long time. These just saying all this shit with all these illustrations and CGI scenes and swelling orchestras. And what are they actually doing to know these things? They walk out there into the desert or into some remote wilderness somewhere, and they find some bones, and they find some other remains, and they stare at a bunch of rocks. This is great. That's fine. It's entirely valid. Go ahead and look at the evidence. But that's what they're doing. They're not seeing this shit happen. There are no witnesses to this. And then when you actually understand basic ontology and basic physics, a lot of the shit they talk about is metaphysically impossible, physically impossible, and even logically impossible, which is the worst. Talk about evolution. Yeah, they only have two options. Either there are essentially different animals or not. If not, then there aren't different animals for them to be evolving from one to another. So you just obliterated the whole point of yapping about evolution. If they say yes, then you say the stupid ass notion that humans and other shit spawn from animals that are essentially different from them, that do not have the capability to spawn other animals that are not of their kind, of their race. Nothing. Or that all of a sudden, one day, in one moment, spontaneously, without any fucking reason, a non-human just transmuted into a human. And et cetera, with all the other types of animals. A non-bird transmuted into a bird. A non-frog transmuted into a frog. Without any sufficient cause or because of question mark. And you can just leave it at that. Yeah, such fucking wisdom.
I think South Park did it really good. With the monkey and all that.
Yeah.
I'll let search for it.
And so that's the logic tree. And they're all train wrecks.
And see, my mom made me, and I'm fucking retarded, but I'm human.
Yeah, how dumb of me to believe that humans respond by fucking humans. How dumb of me. How dumb of me to believe that all the intelligent, specific, informative functionality that is ubiquitous throughout the entire world, both in me, in all of you, and all of us humans, and everywhere else, is the result of someone deliberately making everything just the same way that we make all these other complex, functional, versatile items. How dumb of me. How dumb of me to think that the celestial objects, which obviously are functioning as a clock, just as we make clocks down here to hold it on our hands or hang it up on the wall, how dumb of me to believe that someone deliberately made that. How dumb of me to look at
Platter,
the
Dave
entire
said it.
cosmos as one humongous house. And then we look at our own houses that we build with our own hands and clearly see the obvious essential similarity that this is a house with a foundation.
Yeah, I like the way Flatter Dave said it. He said, you're walking through the woods. You don't know anything about the world. You're walking through the woods, and all of a sudden you come up on a skyscraper. Would you think that it just showed up there or that it was created?
Ridiculous. Someone at some dumbass at some point in time who doesn't want to repent and obey God's law decided, I'm just going to believe that these things just spontaneously, that's what happened. Because there's nothing in our experience that leads us to believe that complex, informative, specific, functional shit, especially the shit that we make, especially the shit that we have to use in order to make the shit, just all of a sudden just began existing because of question mark or just because. There's nothing in our experience that leads us to believe that. Someone made a stupid decision.
That's what creationism suggests as well, though, that man was spontaneously created, not over
Spontaneously
time,
created deliberately.
Right,
not just began existing. It's the direct opposite. Creation, right? Deliberately made, designed, and conscious to just begin existing unintentionally. It's very
as a
opposite.
result of mutations and time, which is ludicrous, but yeah.
Well, no, the mutations, they're subsequent to. You have to exist first. Like I can't mutate.
You have to
if I don't
mutate from
exist
something.
first. Right. Can't be no mutation if I don't exist first.
Which mutated first, the left eye or the right eye?
Right. And how did the eye function before it was complete? Make that make sense. How'd the heart work? How'd the lungs work? How'd the liver work? How'd the immune system work? How'd any at all single organ system work before it was completely put together? Make it make sense.
Yep.
We're talking about a sophisticated system of functioning components that even if you are deficient of a few microscopic substances, nutrients, or bacteria, that you'll just fail within maybe even hours or minutes if enough is deficient. But you can miss a fraction of an entire heart or a lung or a liver or an immune system or a pancreas or a brain, and you think you can still function in a world that is nothing but red and tooth and nail and claw? No less. Dumbasses. Not respectable. Not respectable at all. With all that goddamn arrogant, snobbish, mocking contempt. It's one thing. I wouldn't have this level of disgust and disdain for these people if they weren't such arrogant, mocking, snobbish assholes. It's ridiculous, the trend with scientism believers.
I mean, it also has to be with people's receptiveness to things, because I have like two different friends on video games that I talked to both of them about Flat Earth. Neither of them are Flat Earth believers, but One buddy, he just listens to me and is like, "That's interesting. That's cool." The other guy was like, "You're
Yeah.
a fucking idiot. You're just shut the fuck up." That's two different people, two different attitudes. Neither of them believe me, but they just want you to respect one isn't, and they're my friends.
I mean, anyone who sounds like this, like you're a fucking idiot. You're obviously wrong. This is obviously a fact. And da 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 da. Anyone who talks like that and can't give a single lick of a fact or that remotely resembles a fact, they can specifically articulate these details about this, that, or the third, whatever the given subject is. That's when you know that is simply a person who has been deluded, either by themselves or someone else. But something
Right.
has irrationally convinced that person that they know, even though their mind is devoid of any specific details about the issue, let alone facts.
Greg, do you heard him when he said the senses make no sense?
Mm-hmm.
I thought,
That was very good. That was very good
oh
on
my
your
god.
part.
You think about it like this. I don't think globe earthers are dumbasses at all, man. I was one too. I didn't believe it. I didn't argue for it. When I wanted to know about flat Earth, I researched it and I was like, oh shit, but like I still even now I'm not calling globe earthers dumbasses. We were all taught wrong. We were all there once. It's not that they're dumbasses, and I don't call them that either. It's like obstinance, blindness, brainwashing. It's all been done to us. It's not even their fault. It's hard to change for a lot of people, especially when it's going back all the way to their childhood and their lizard brain. It's tough. I get it. I don't think they're being dumbasses, and I don't treat them like that. They've just been misled, and now they're having trouble getting over that. There also are some people who just want to fight.
Yeah, to who it applies to, you're right. To who it applies to, and to an extent. But then there are the dumbasses.
The spectrum is not black and white. There's actually haters of the truth. They hate the truth and they will fight against it. So yeah.
And again, there is I want people to internalize this observation. Notice the types of people that usually subscribe to scientism. They're in relatively, in generally speaking, comfortable so-called first world environments. You don't go to the third world, so-called, or the second world, if that really is a category in most people's minds. But you don't go to these other places that are not in the Europeanized first world, and this is the common worldview. There's something about the people who, by God's grace, have received all these things, all these assets, all these benefits, and have participated with more or less closeness of involvement of the development of technology, right? Of all sorts of applicable scientific achievements, right? And you just become arrogant in believing the scientism bullshit. But those who live more humble lives, who wouldn't even begin to understand the elements of scientism, who wouldn't even begin to understand the elements of like arithmetic or calculus or all this other shit, they don't have this worldview.
It actually took me into a good way. So all these conspiracy theories were coming out with the files and stuff, and huge conspiracy theories since 2003. One of the biggest ones I never looked into was flat Earth. So when I started thinking all the conspiracy theories are true, she said that my word, the way I said it, was interesting because I said the only one that doesn't make sense to me is flat Earth because why? But I don't really know anything about it, so I'm going to have to look into it. And she said that is what the mindset that people don't have. You said it doesn't make sense, but you said you don't know about it and you're going to go learn. I didn't dismiss it. I just said, I don't know and I don't know why. So I went and found out and then it all made sense. But they don't have that attitude of wanting to learn. they want you to be wrong and want to fight you and own you and all this stuff. And it's just a bad attitude.
One critique that, and I say this critique because this is a part of their mindset, right? And so you have to basically smash this notion to at least try to contribute to breaking the shackles, right, off of their mind, this goddamn worldview. So the notion that they'll never articulate in so many words out of their own mouths, someone else has to do it for them. They think that all the actual so-called scientific achievements throughout the ages and throughout the world that have been achieved is the fruits of applying scientism. They're distinctives of their worldview, and it isn't. They think that how stupid of you to not believe our worldview, scientism, which again they don't call by that term, but I will call it by their term. Many like me will call it by their term for my convenience because they want to categorize everything else the way they do, and they do it terribly. I'm going to do it better than them. They think all these achievements is part and parcel to in the result of applying our worldview, scientism. We made the cell phone, we made the computer, we made the internet because we believe this worldview of scientism. No, you didn't. This is not the consistent fruits or application of scientism at all. In fact, when you actually understand how to do an internal critique and self-scrutinize, you have no foundation for induction of any kind. The problem of induction is still an unresolved enigma for you dumbasses believe in scientism, this worldview. No idea. In fact, the majority of the people who believe scientism aren't even familiar with the term problem of induction. Couldn't even spell induction. But you want to sit up here and act like your worldview is part and parcel to, and is to be thanked for all these technological achievements and all this other shit. No, it isn't. They do not understand how to distinguish and internalize the fact that their worldview is distinct from and not the source of any and all scientific achievement at all. Not one, not one. And I say that strictly and mercilessly. Not a single one. There's not a single scientific achievement, technological achievement, architectural achievement, engineering achievement, et cetera, that is a consistent result of applying scientism with its distinctives. The whole set of its doctrines, that whole set of doctrines they believe. Not one.
And if you take God away from people by, saying we're on a globe and we aren't created and stuff, then that disconnects people from that idea. I'm not saying religion is truth, but I'm saying when you take away the creator from them, you make scientism a lot easier to indoctrinate people with.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, man, they even changed the Bible, like all the Bibles up until like 1982, and you can still find the King James. They all mention the firmament in Genesis 1. Now all the new Bibles all say heavens or expanse. So they even take some of the words away.
Yes, several of them, but I don't want to distort the facts concerning English translations. Some of them, one too many of them, do that ambiguous translation of rakia there in the first chapter of Genesis. But the more formal translations, they know what it means. Like the NIV, for instance, it's one of the more idiomatic translations, but it translates it vaulted dome. Very, very straightforward and accurate. Right.
But for me, that's cool.
And the NIV is the most popular translation today. So,
and like in America, at least more than 50% of people can't read above a 6th grade reading level. It's pretty terrible.
yeah, that's another mildly sad fact. There was a time when uh, like in the late 19th century, early 20th century, your regular farmer who either didn't go to the public school system, public, I'm not going to call it that, the state school system, or any school system. They just were raised at the house, and their parents taught them, their family taught them, and their community taught them this, that, and the third. They were far more literate than the average person today who goes to the state school system. Like you read their memoirs, or read their letters, little
They read their
missive.
Bible.
That too, 100%.
Some of those Civil War letters, they're articulate as fuck.
Very articulate. And I heard it somewhere. I haven't researched this in depth, but anyone can research this. Wherever the Bible has been thoroughly implemented into a given society, a given people, the literacy levels in general significantly increased.
I was homeschooled and taught the Bible, but it never taught me anything about Earth like that. And I'm not like a genius or anything. I'm fucking retarded, but I can read a lot better than all the public school people around me by a lot. I'm like almost like aghast at how bad it is because I'm like, dude, I didn't even have any formal education, and I understand this and know how to spell and do basic math, like way better than y'all. Like how it's not me.
Yeah. The rotten fruits of the state school system are manifest, and many uh, many employees in there, they've recognized it, and they tolerate it, and they resent it, and even speak out against it and publicly critique it, and they teach their students, the teachers, for instance, they teach their students other information besides the curricula, and even critique the curricula to their students. Like, this is what the Board of Education wants you to say, but here are the facts, and they go on. Not everyone does it. I don't think even the majority of teachers do that, but many are doing that. Like, it's gotten to a point recently where uh, a significant amount of increased awareness of the corruption, the rottenness, of the nature of the state school system is being more acknowledged, more learning about that, acknowledging that.
Actually really proud of my son because he's fucking 9, but like when he was 8 last year, his teacher went off script on the curriculum and started talking about her personal beliefs, and he literally spoke up and shut his own teacher down at 8 years old. He was like, "Nope," and I was like, "Well, I mean, I can't argue with that, man, because I mean, everybody else in the class just staying quiet and not thinking, and here you are being willing to stand up to her and be like, nah, it's not what I see and feel and think. I'm going to be told differently from my experience."
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, my son tried standing up to his teacher, but she slapped him because he's homeschooled.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to gross people out with is being like, I had sex with one of my teachers and then tell them I was homeschooled.
Gross.
Jeez. Thing I would be so glad to ask an academician, because here's the difference. You talk to, like, just the very simple type that everyone understands. You talk to the given professor, him, her. You talk to the given professor, and here we are for a convenience. I'm gonna call people like us divergence. Divergence in the sense of, diverging from the common notions and belief systems and doctrines and customs and cetera, et cetera. Right? Those with minority opinions, beliefs, with or without argumentation. Right? So you talk to the given professor. Hang on, give me 5 seconds. So I asked them, several questions, but one of the questions I'd ask them is, are you committed to a doctrinal system, regardless of any critiques, or are you truly open? Right? Are you truly open to alternative positions and critiques against the current doctrinal system that you espouse? Because that's what makes the difference. That would be the litmus test for anyone, including an academician. Now we know, more or less, the majority of academicians are actually committed to a doctrinal system. They're not really open. They're not really critically considerate. It's not like they have this attitude in their head. They don't really internalize this attitude that says, I believe these things now, and I think I have a lot going for the things that I believe now, but it could be wrong. And I'm open to what anyone else has to say. Most academicians do not have that in mind.
Like you said, though, a lot of people don't have their eyes open to evidence like that, or the desire, like you said, to change. And people don't have their eyes open to evidence. Like questions are always where it starts. So like questioning like what we are told as far as the worldview, what we are, and everything, right? And no magic or anything like that exists. So I don't get to be home when my wife gets home from work. I had a day off a few weeks ago, and we live on the fourth floor of an apartment on the back side of the building. And so her parking spot is 4 floors down and across on the other side of the lot from the building. And I was talking to her on the phone. She's coming home, and she rolls up. I hear her roll up, and I hear her shift into park, turn the engine off, and open her door. And the moment she turned the engine off, one of her cats that was sitting next to me, who was like asleep, the moment she shut that engine off, that cat jumped up, like turned his head up, jumped up, ran to the door, started sitting there waiting for her. I was like, "There's no way this motherfucker could have heard her at all, or known she was there or anything." But the moment she turned that car off, that cat knew she was home. There's no way you could see or hear it. So that question is, I'm like, well, that's just not like scientifically normal. That makes me ask questions about, oh, why this isn't normal. This isn't quote unquote what I know is real. So as you start to ask questions about that when you see that data, if you see that and find evidence like we do with the scientific method, then you can, actually have a known opinion. Do I know what the hell he felt? No, it's some fucking magic shit. But I see that, and I refuse to let that like just go by and dismiss it because I saw it. It's real. It happened. I can't explain it. I don't know exactly what happened, but I know it happened, and I know it's not scientifically normal.
Yeah. That's another thing these scientists don't understand because their clerics failed them. Right? Their clerics failed them. They just don't teach them well. One of the things they don't understand, and this is categorically a philosophical fact, is that the laws of physics are not necessary. Right? Not necessary. They don't necessarily exist. Things don't necessarily fall down. Water doesn't necessarily fall down. Right? The colors things are not necessarily those colors. Right? The colors things are could have been otherwise. They could have been usually grown taller than what we usually do, et cetera, et cetera. Right? The way the material things normally function is not necessary. They're contingent. And there's other possibilities that we could have been. We could have had 3 arms. We could have 3 eyes. We could have wings. Right? Not necessary. And given that there is a normal function of things, that entails that abnormal or paranormal events, functions, are indeed, of course, possible. And for them to say that it's not possible is to either explicitly convey or insinuate, even just subconsciously, that these things that are contingent are absolutely necessary and they couldn't be otherwise, which is obviously false. There are other possible worlds that are logically possible and metaphysically possible, and nomologically possible, given the current laws of physics that we recognize at most.
So, what's your
But
opinion
that
on quantum physics? Is it just a bunch of nonsense and theory, just like everything else in our past, or are they onto something real with these quote unquote particles existing in more than one place at a time? I mean, it seems
yeah,
impossible to me. So, but I'm ignorant, so I'm not going to claim that what they're doing is fake.
yeah, the so-called quantum physics or quantum mechanics, it's a modern label for an ancient doctrine. They're not clever, but because people are ignorant of these things, they're ignorant of these ancient metaphysical schools of thought. They really don't know how to perceive. They really don't know how to perceive so-called quantum mechanics uh, correctly. Quantum mechanics is nothing more than either ideal monism or atomism. Ideal monism or atomism, because there's various versions of quantum mechanics. The quanta, which is just a Latin word for quantity, quantity of what? There's no answer to that question. They didn't think this through. They didn't even think their nomenclature through. Right? So-called quanta, quantum being the singular, quanta being the plural. These Latin words. Okay, so again, it's nothing more than just the simple notion that there are these. Everything consists of these indivisible particles. That's the basic notion, because the way they use their terms and how they articulate their metaphysics talk about molecules consisting of atoms, consisting of subatomic atoms, consisting of quanta, yada yada yada. Right, the way they break it down, which is just redundant. Right? Once they said atom, borrowing the Greek word atom, meaning indivisible, right? That's all. It's it right there. Subatomic is a contradiction in analytically, right?
I
The
understand.
divisible, indivisible.
Very good point.
All right. So besides that, they commit those types of errors, and they're entirely oblivious to them. They would never dawn on them to think of them because they just don't have that mindset. Their worldview does not drive that sort of thinking to be that deeply analytical, to be rhetorically accurate and grammatically accurate, yada yada. Anyways, so quantum mechanics, right? The mechanisms, the mechanics of the so-called quanta, these indivisible particles, which are not matter. They're not matter. This is their notion. This is their notion. They're not material. It's not as though the quanta are in a particular phase or state of matter. Right? What they say is that their probability. What are the quanta? Their probability. Sorry, what? Probability is not a material. Not a material thing. It's an abstract category. Probability. What probability? It's not a material thing. You don't open the cabinet and find probability. Right? You don't look under the bed and find probability. You don't look under your nails and find fucking probability. It's a fucking abstract category. Doesn't make any damn sense. So right there, at that point, they just reified a category as though it's a substance and material subsists of. That's the fallacy of reification. And this is a basic elementary error that any uh, beginner in studying logic would recognize. There's not some advanced error that you have to be so so adept in all these various nuances that people can imagine, right? Like it's just a million things to learn. No, it's a basic error. People do it all the time. People do it all the time, either deliberately for the sake of figurative rhetoric, or indeliberately when trying to convey what they believe is a fact, but it's not a fact, and it's just an erroneous notion.
Would a good
So
simple example of that be like saying, this is red? And you're like, well, why do you say that? Because we look at it and it's the color we know is red. And then you're like, okay, cool. But somebody who's colorblind either sees it as a different shade or fucking doesn't see it at all. So is it really red? Is it their problem, or is it the color problem, or is it my problem? Is that sort of like a more basic like example of that?
No, that'd be a different issue.
Okay, all right,
That'd
cool. I
be
was
an
trying
issue
to
of
relate things. I was actually trying to relate things on a more simple level to people. So I was trying to see what that's what I was making.
no. You're fine. That's a good thing to do. Yeah, that would be a different issue. That'd be an issue of epistemology, right? Epistemology is the study of knowledge, right? It asks the basic question: what is knowledge, and how do we know what we know, right? Which includes empirical knowledge, which is identified by the term a posteriori, in contrast to a priori. It's the basic two categories of knowledge: a priori, that which is known before or without empirical detection; a posteriori, that which is known by empirical detection. So all the sights and the smells and the tastes and the feelings, tactile sensations, and what you hear and da 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 da, all that is empirical. All that is a posteriori. So there's that. What I'm talking about is an a priori issue, because you have to analyze the propositions in the first place to be coherent, right? In order for any proposition to be a known fact, it has to be coherent first. It can't be an incoherent freaking proposition, freaking notion. You can't know incoherent false propositions, which are logically impossible to be the case, to be true. Okay. So with their so-called quantum mechanics, you can say it like this: all material subsists of indivisible particles that are probability. That's the proposition. Okay.
Yeah,
Reification
cool.
now.
So like what I was saying was more like I hate Brussels sprouts and taste like shit. Some people I think they taste like shit. That's what I feel, but and taste and smell. But other people think they're delicious. And so does that mean they're delicious or taste like shit? No. Is that what the thing I was doing is more like?
I missed like half of what you said, because I heard what I literally heard when you just replied was "da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da." That's what I literally heard, and then I heard more English.
I was probably talking too fast. I was saying that the example I was making of like the red color, it's more of like Brussels sprouts. I think Brussels sprouts smell and taste like shit. But I know like my mother-in-law loves Brussels sprouts. She thinks they smell great and they taste great. So my thing on the color would be more like that sort of thing, not what you were talking about.
Yeah, that'd be a
Okay,
different issue.
cool. I
That'd
just
also be
trying to
another
get
issue for
the
their worldview.
clarification. So
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah. Answering I think you asked me about quantum mechanics, right? Or was it someone else?
other dude.
Other dude? That's okay. So yeah, that's my refutation against quantum mechanics. It's nothing more than uh, idealistic atomism, or monism. The reason I say or monism, because then you'll get a version that reduces all materials down to a single so-called quantum field, or maybe quantum fields. Just a simple difference of using field in the singular or plural. All right, which is not a meaningful difference. It's really not all that significant a difference, a minor superficial difference. Whether they say there's one quantum field that everything subsists of, uh, or multiple quantum fields, doesn't matter. So yeah, that's the refutation. Quantum mechanics is all material substances subsist of these indivisible particles that are probability. Okay, that's a reification. Probability is not a material, not a material thing. And of course, going on with their silly metaphysical lore, LORE lore, all these particular specific notions that they say, the specific sentences, propositions that consist the entire set of what they think are the set of facts that at least they know so far. So all their lore, the metaphysical lore. Um, Another bit of lore is, the so-called superposition, for instance. All right, that the particle which is not omnipresent, right? Does not occupy all volume, is simultaneously occupying a specific, very infinitesimal quantity of volume, while also simultaneously existing somewhere else. So as it were, particle alpha, right? Particle alpha is in location alpha, but then the notion is that particle alpha is also in location bravo, even at vast distances away by orders of magnitude to the millions, right? The so-called superposition and quantum entanglement. That's like me existing where I am and existing at another particular location, like at all, like even just next to me is absurd, but let alone a vast distance away from me. That's what that is. That's the notion. Contradictory.
I mean,
It
and
brings
that's
it
kind of
home
what
back
I was
here.
asking you about earlier, because that
Uh-huh.
notion is just absolutely ridiculous to me, and it makes zero
It's
sense.
incoherent. And then to rescue or to protect the doctrine from any refutation, like what I just articulated, they'll just excuse the doctrine from the laws of logic. Well, the universe doesn't have to make sense to you. The universe doesn't have to be logical to you. Yada yada yada. Da, da. Hang on, hang the fuck on. If a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew give that same type of reply after you ask them a question about their worldview and their metaphysics, you would not accept that. And you would be contemptuous against it. You would turn your nose down upon it. But you can do that for your fucking worldview? I don't think so. You don't get a pass because you just arbitrarily,
to
by your
say,
assertion, by your opinion, just excuse yourself from being
scientism
coherent.
gets a pass, basically.
Exactly. In their opinion.
It's because you have to get a degree from a university to practice this religion, right? It's a
Right.
new
So
priesthood.
one of the notions in their worldview is because we who just are just scientific minded, da 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 da, right? Because basically, I'll say it this way: because we are scientists of scientism, we are beyond and above and superior to all these other categories: Christianism, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Jainism. We're superior above all these other things. We just have the facts, and we're just so smart, and we're doctors, and da 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 yada yada
Well,
yada.
then you
That's
call
the
it what it
notion.
is. Then scientism is the religion of atheism.
It includes atheism. That's a
Yeah.
theological opinion within their worldview.
Like they remove God and they turn man into God because they don't believe there is a
Exactly.
creator and that everything is just an accidental result of primordial soup somehow. So
At least as it concerns epistemology, presuming that the intellect of man, as finite and fallible and pitifully impotent as it is, concerning the whole scope of all knowledge that could be known, is somehow sufficient for everything. Even though they know full and well that they run into the absurdities in the world in their worldview. Everyone has to encounter this in their worldview if they're trying to be consistent and disciplined, right, with their worldview. You have to account for the things that don't make sense, the things you don't know, the things you don't understand. You have to account for the reality of ignorance and error and confusion. And they can't. Because
probably
you
best that I
scrutinize
got
their
to do an
worldview
IT
and
career.
push come to shove, they hit a wall, basically. They hit a conceptual, principial wall when under scrutiny.
I mean, Michio Kaku, his quote about modern cosmology being off to a factor of 1 to the 120th or whatever. I mean, that says it right there.
Right.
They're wrong. Their theories are wrong, but they're the best that they've got for now. That's kind of how I see it.
Now notice, analyze that notion itself. Not only is that clearly conveying, right, in so many words that they're wrong, but still with the superficial rhetoric as though they have an epistemic standard to specifically quantify their error instead of just saying they don't know.
Right, and who's to decide when they're right?
Them. They decide
Exactly.
when they're
How do
right.
you know you're off if you don't even have a fucking target?
Right. How do you
Like
know you're
when you go
wrong
to the
if you're wrong?
range, right? When you go to the range and you go shoot the target, your target specifically on the silhouette is the dot its center mass. You can't know that you're off if there's no goddamn silhouette to shoot, or if
Right.
there's
What's
no
the
dart on
target?
the silhouette to aim
Exactly.
at.
I've never actually looked at the argument like that, but that's beautiful. How can you know how far you're off if you don't even know that you're off? I mean, you don't know the target. So
You don't have a
you're
target at all. You just don't fucking know. But they're still so emotionally committed to their basically their supremacism. It's a type of supremacism.
mhm.
It's a type of snobbish supremacism in their worldview, where even when we're wrong, we're so smart that we know to the umpteenth power how wrong we are.
Right.
Just say you don't fucking know. And again, these are the same people who are so quick to say to try and virtue signal themselves for some reason. Doesn't make any sense in their worldview if you're being consistent with just a bunch of matter flailing around a black void. But they're the same people who love to spout about themselves that we have no reluctance to admit that we don't know and we just don't know, unlike you Christians or you Muslims or you Jews. But then when push come to shove in so many aspects of their worldview, when it's time to say that simple sentence, I don't know, they refuse to do it. They will say everything else but.
I I was shocked when Neil deGrasse Tyson was asked what is gravity. I have no idea. Next question.
Right. Just be like him. Right. It's amazing how their clerics are much better behaved than the zealot laymen who are wannabe apologists in Discord land in places like this.
Yeah. At least they'll debate flat earthers.
I mean, at least for instance, like in a Christian community or a Muslim community or a Jewish community, there's actual discipline that is applied by the clerics to the laity. At least. There's no such thing with scientism. How could you justify discipline? How could you justify it? Because again, you've taught your laity, you've taught your disciples to just be defiantly skeptical, not rationally skeptical, with a discipline, a self discipline, just defiantly skeptical, according to their whims, arbitrarily, whimsically. What's to stop them from doing that to you? And they do it all the time. You should listen to them, scientism clerics, here in Discord land. It's a Pandora's box. Like a minotaur. You created this beast, and now you can't control it. And notice I talk about the scientism clerics, the scientist clerics, and there really is no uh, specific, finite quantity of like officially defined people. It's the most accurate, convenient label for their notion, and pretty much the vague class of academic professionals that they vaguely are familiar with and rely upon.
I mean, it's a great
That is,
industry to get into, though. Think about it. That
yeah.
you can't prove them wrong about anything because they make up the rules, they make up the bullshit right from the get go. So you get to make up your job as you go along because it's all made up from the beginning.
This is why I call this the phantom scientist magisterium.
Nice.
And those who are familiar with Roman Catholicism, for instance, they that's particularly striking to them. It particularly vexes them because again, they like to think they're just so special and exempt, as though there's no comparison to be made between them. They're just entirely separate from everything that they connotatively associate with whatever they don't like that is remotely related to the Bible or Christian or theism or religion. Da 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 da. Like no, there's all sorts of similarities that I can point out. Like I just mentioned, with the Roman Catholicism, there's the magisterium. Now, I will take the Roman Catholic magisterium, even though they're false disciples with a false gospel and all sorts of damnable heresies and all the tyranny that they've done, even espousing many of the distinctives of scientists. I will take their magisterium above the phantom scientist magisterium because at least they exist. They're particular existing real men. They all have names. They're real men. They're on the earth. You can find them at some particular occasions. You can find them all in one room. You can't do that with the Phantom Scientist Magisterium. There's no such thing. You asked Dr. Kerry Mullis before he was murdered. I guess I said what I meant. He said explicitly, "There are no wise old men at the top making sure no one makes mistakes at the bottom." That's a quote. He said that back in the 80s or 90s in a documentary.
I wish people would have
Now,
listened
he
to
was
him.
mostly saying that in the context of medical science, but he was primarily focused on that in the documentary. But he knows other fields. There's no old wise counsel at the top making sure people down below don't make any errors or correct their errors. There's no such thing. What you really have is something more similar to how most Jews function today. It's a diasporated category. You just go to this location, that location, and you got these scholars over here, and those scholars over here, and these scholars over here, and those scholars here, there, and everywhere. That's really what you have. You don't have a rigid structure, but a rigid hierarchical institution, organization. Not that rigid. Not like
I
the Roman
suppose
Catholic.
the old what was the name of the British Royal Scientist
Yeah, Royal
Academies?
Society.
Yeah, Royal
Yeah.
Society, right? It's not as formalized anymore, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in the U.S. You just have the scholars over here, that university over there, that university over here, that university over there. That's really what they have. And you have this so-called consensus that is also not definitive for this, that, and the third.
And look at the denominations of churches today. They got so many denominations, and they have like crazy different beliefs between all of them. Fuck up.
Yeah. You usually all the doctrinal disagreements, and when you know how to scrutinize them, especially when they're in the same room. Like I did this once in another server called Earth Awakenings. These two wannabe apologists for scientism. I got them to get into a really lengthy debate that was never resolved after even the half an hour of discussion between them about what mass is. Simple ass question. One of the elements of their worldview, mass. What is it? They were disagreeing about what it is. How'd I make them to do that?
It's the same
Because
crowd.
I recognize. Yeah.
Sorry.
I recognize that they. No, you're good.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the
I-
same crowd that can't answer what is a woman. That's all.
Exactly. Right. I got them to disagree on this, for instance, just to help people understand, because they say the word mass rhetoric at least in three different senses, and the majority of them, vast majority of them, virtually all of them, do it subconsciously. They don't even realize that this is a thing in their worldview, that they're saying mass in at least three different senses. One, matter. Two, the quantity of matter as in a unit of measurement. Or three, inertia. At least in those three senses. There's a fourth one I can't remember right now. But they slid mass in. And they were disagreeing on it. And they had a discussion for more than half an hour. And they still didn't come to an agreement. And these weren't like boys. These are thoroughly adult men. They're like, I assume they're at least in their 30s, but I would say they're more so in their 40s and above. These two dudes that I got to that exposed this doctrinal sectarian disagreement between. They think they're above sectarian disagreement. They are chuck fucking full of sectarian divisions, especially like concerning quantumism, so-called quantum mechanics. I call it quantumism for my convenience.
I imagine most people are going to end up on these debates on those topics. They're just armchair quarterbacks. They really don't know what the hell they're talking about, but they watched a YouTube video about it or stayed in the hall.
You have no idea how inane it is to listen to these people.
Oh,
because they're supposed to be debating, and they're saying all these replies that are just non-argument, no disciplined reply to try and soundly argue for their opinion. It's just replies, at best conjecture, just being exchanged back and forth.
Regurgitated rhetoric. I listened to this Discord on YouTube a lot. It's the same shit
over and over and over again. It's like they're reading from a playbook. So
Ridiculous. No epistemic standard, no rules of inference to guide their rationales, nothing. Their standard is their opinion. That's a part of their worldview. A part of the worldview of scientism is just presumptuous humanistic rationalism. In other words, the standard, like in contrast to the biblical worldview, which is God is the epistemic standard, his revelation is the epistemic standard, and we also discipline ourselves by the laws of logic, etc. That's not a thing in scientism. Right? In contrast to that, it's just my opinion. This makes sense to me. That's the whole history of rationalism for centuries. So-called rationalism is nothing more than just this makes sense, ellipsis, to me.
mm-hmm.
Right? That's why for millennia you have Rene Descartes, so-called rationalist, who will be a pantheist, in contrast to another rationalist, such as what's his name? Not Descartes. In contrast to Descartes, I'm forgetting another name. Spinoza. There we go. Finally, in contrast to Spinoza, who would be a monist, right? I think I'm getting that right. But in the history of rationalism, they've come to vastly different conclusions about all sorts of issues, including and especially metaphysics, according to the so-called same epistemic standard, right? So-called rationalism, using reason, right? We know this according to reason. You know this according to because it makes sense to you, because you can comfortably, as it were, grasp this in your mind. So if an epistemic standard, when consistently applied, produces a vast variety of contradictory conclusions or entailments, that's obviously a failure of a so-called epistemic standard. That's not a way to know anything. It proves one proposition and everything else contrary to it.
My buddy Ahmed made. I love his rationalization on things. And yet, when I was talking to him, because he's a devout Muslim, and I was like, "Yeah, what do you know about the old cosmology and like stuff about the North Pole and stuff?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I know about that. That was taught that as part of my religion." I was like, "Cool." I was like, "What do you know about the Earth itself?" He's like, "Well, I know what I've seen, and he thinks it's flat." And he said that he came to that conclusion in a very simple way. He uh, he said, "Well, I was taught that cosmology. I see flat Earth. I've been taught the globe. So what I see and what I believe match up. What I see and believe and what I was taught do not. So I'm going to go with what I see and believe versus what somebody else is telling me." And I was like, that's really simple, and I really like that.
Yeah. That is an instance of a empiricist type of line of thinking. Empiricist in the sense of, because at least two different senses. Empiricist in the sense of acknowledging the empirical data that you detect, right? Acknowledging what you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you hear, what you feel. But then another sense, which is the erroneous sense, the erroneous notion, which is that we only know things by empirical detection. That's patently false. It's a stupid notion because you didn't empirically detect that very proposition itself. So if you can only know things by empirical detection, you couldn't know that proposition. The proposition, you only know things by empirical detection because you do not and cannot empirically detect the proposition itself. So
Like I was telling
besides
my
that,
my wife earlier, I couldn't sense that at all, but it was there. I couldn't sense it, but
right?
it happened.
Or like the laws of logic. Laws of logic are not material at all. They're immaterial, abstract entities. You've never seen the laws of logic, smelled the laws of logic, tasted the laws of logic, heard the laws of logic, felt the laws of logic, never had any empirical detection of the laws of logic. So by that, that would entail that there is no such thing as laws of logic, or you couldn't know them. And if you could, of course, if there's no such thing, or you couldn't know them if they were real, then you couldn't know anything because you need the laws of logic to fucking know anything. So that's another way to refute the empiricism notion. In contrast to simply just acknowledging your empirical sensations and accurately interpreting them. That's a posteriori knowledge, empirical knowledge.
Hey, Yoder, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Man, you're gonna love this shit. So I've been
Hey,
on another server with a bunch of normies, and then dude, boy. Okay, so anyway, not a bunch of normies, just like I guess, I mean, basically people, they question government and whatnot, but it's kind of fun, and so dude, that dude from politics, uh, I can't think of his name right now, where he's got the picture of the Grim Reaper as his profile.
yeah, Bindi, racist, fascist.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So he's on the same server, and then he calls me like, "Oh, critical, oh," and they're like, "Dude, why are you acting weird?" And then he's like, "Well, critical's a flat earther, and they're like,
Oh,
"Yeah, we know, yeah, yeah, okay, it's okay, people can think anything they want." And I was like, "But isn't it interesting? Like right now, you have the astronauts supposedly went around the moon doing a long form press conference, taking questions from the audience, talking about everything there is to know about this moon mission. And this dude is so triggered over flat Earth, he doesn't give a flying fuck what the astronauts have to say. He sees me in the Discord call and just starts acting like a clown." And everyone just started laughing. They're like, "Yeah, dude, go watch the astronauts. See if they can," because they think it's kind of like fake or silly or whatever. Why spend this much money when there's like Flint, Michigan and whatnot? They're kind of that like NASA shouldn't cost that much type stuff. Like where their talking points are. You know, um, so yeah, they're like totally talking to you like, "Dude, don't you want to listen to the astronauts?" And like everyone's just like laughing at the guy, and he got like seriously pissed. Like he's like, "The flat earthers are ruining everything." Like, well, dude, ignore them. Just go watch your press conference. Then you'll be okay. Like the astronauts are right now, live on YouTube and whatnot. The astronauts are talking to the public. Why aren't you listening or paying attention to that? And then I got a chance to interject about the overview effect, about this instant cognitive shift. I said it doesn't matter. These guys are fundamentally immune to the science. They'll deny it. It doesn't matter if manned spaceflight returns. It doesn't matter if manned spaceflight doesn't return. It doesn't matter if the astronauts are talking today, tomorrow. None of it matters. The only thing that matters to them is that they need the Earth to be a globe for some reason, which they won't explain or take questions on, because their worldview has some baked in nonsense like cosmic nihilism or atheism or something like that. The Earth has to be a globe. It just has to be. And anyone who disagrees with that, they see as a moral failing, while at the same time think morals are subjective anyway.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sounds about right.
The dude, and I'm saying, like, of all days, this should be the day he shouldn't even be thinking about flat Earth. He should be watching this press conference, or at least like, something. But no, they can't contain themselves. They're completely, and what made me think about this too, because that guy Red's Rhetoric completely detonated in my DMs today about how I'm trying to get his attention. I'm his number one fan. I'm like, sure, all that's true. Now, will you watch the press conference today? Or are you going to freak out over flat Earth anyway? And of course he did. Like, just talk about flat Earth over and over again. Can't get past it. The very first day they heard flat Earth, they've been in endless, perpetual triggering ever since. They haven't got out of it yet. And nothing's going to get them out of it until they decide to stop. They're the ones who put them into it. They're the ones who are going to take them out of it. It doesn't matter how many photographs of space you show them. It doesn't matter how many photographs of Earth, from Earth, the surface of the Earth. None of the conversation is going to matter until they decide to stop triggering themselves over a topic they can't even define.
The dogma sucks anyway. It's way cooler over here.
The one in the call is funny too because they got that dude to spaz out because they called them the fartsternauts. Because apparently there's like this article where the toilet clogged up. I didn't even see that part. Like going around the moon, they had to like stop using the toilet because it clogged. It was leaking stink into the capsule. It's like that joke from the Family Guy where was it Brian? No, the dad, Peter, where Peter's trying to get Meg to say, "Hey, how do you be a good wife?" And he put her in the car, and she's like, "Okay, we're sitting in the car. What are we doing in here?" All of a sudden, like he just rips out like a massive fart and then like locks the doors. She's like, "Oh, get me out of here! Get me out of here!" And he's like, "Yep, you're gonna to be a good wife. You're gonna have to like withstand the stink farts." So this woman who just went around the moon with 3 dudes with a backed up, clogged up toilet wearing diapers and shit.
Just manufactured drama. Most people are bored and not interested in this. I mean,
No, that's what I'm saying. They're not interested in anything at all. That's my takeaway.
yeah,
Because
so,
even
toilet
in
humor,
yeah,
literally.
in terms of like production or entertainment value, this idea of shit posting or talking online, that's really what their whole world is. But they're scared. They are shit scared to talk bad about government because government's the same one who provides them housing and food, medical supplies. They're completely dependent on the government. But what they will do is find some minority group who really doesn't give a fuck what they have to say anyway, and then try to shit talk them as if they're going to win the internet for the day.
That's very accurate.
That was
Very
pretty
accurate
good.
observation. Very accurate description.
We were talking.
and
Okay, what kind of
what?
got the guy going? Just real quick,
Yeah.
Justice, I think Nescalia or whatever, one of the justice did an op-ed today about how what the greatest threat to America, and he said liberal college professors who are like preaching sort of like atheism and whatnot. He said our country is founded under one. God bless America. God granted human freedoms and liberties. And I was like, oh, that's going to get him going, because so here's the atheist thinking like, oh, there's a separation of church and state. Okay, then why are all our laws based on the 10 Commandments? And why did the Supreme Court just reference the greatest threat to America is the unreligious or the non-religious? It's been a bad day for a bad week for atheism, considering the Apollo astronauts too. They did a prayer breakfast. They did Easter prayer breakfast, and then when they were asked about how do you feel about coming in with a different angle you didn't practice because the heat shield may have a failure, he's like, "Oh, I don't need a heat shield." What, you don't? No, I got God.
It's funny you're saying this too after I just finished. I just finished binging Stargate Atlantis. Like you heard all the goddamn critiques I just said, right? And here I am still watching things like Stargate Atlantis, and I'm trying to finish Stargate Universe too right now.
It's still a good show. Universe sucks. I don't understand how you can watch that. But SG1.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's horrible. It's like a teenage drama sex show. They ruined Stargate with that. But SG1 and Atlantis, they're some of my favorite shows. I've done watched through both of them like I don't know 4 times each at least, and they're long shows, as you know.
Yeah, it's like that.
To really.
That meme where it shows like the little brain, a bigger brain, an even bigger brain, and like transcendence. It's like the very top. It's like, instantly loving shows of the sci-fi shows because of you're a child. Then like the little bit bigger brain is like despising, sci-fi shows for like the anti-science crap in there and like whatever drama sort weird crap they put in there. And then number 3, it's like boycotting sci-fi shows because of the it's just not entertainment. It's slop.
I did
And
that for the first few years of being a flat earther.
And then finally at the end, it's like, actually loving sci-fi shows for the amazing propaganda that they put in there.
Exactly. So I've gone through all those steps now. So I mean, in the beginning, I was like, "Oh, I won't even watch this stuff. I hate Star Wars now. I hate Star Trek. I grew up on that stuff, and I loved it, and I rejected it for the longest time. But now, man, I don't give a damn. It's just entertainment. I
Yeah,
can
like you
watch
watch,
all the
from
space
the
and be like,
scientist
it's
perspective, right?
sci-fi,
it's like you watch Star Wars. It's like, how many times did they reverse the polarity to fix the problem? Like I saw this episode last week.
So like internalize this observation, right? So put on your as it were scientism eyes, looking at Star Wars, Stargate, Starship Troopers, Star, right? Star Trek. This seems like a fictional rendition of a real possible future, right? That's what that content is. It is their public. It is a big. These are big projects that last for years, even, and it's a public presentation of their eschatology, of their
They're
eschatological hope.
a declaration.
A
Like
declaration.
they're
Dude,
declaring what they want the reality to be, and then
right?
they make it happen in 50 years. Look at Arthur C. Clarke and satellites.
Exactly. So, right. So there's that perspective. That's the scientist perspective, right? Then when you know the truth, people like us, we perceive that content the same way they perceive like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or the Spiderwick Chronicles. Spiderwick Chronicles, goddamn. Or Harry Potter. Just fiction that never happened and never will happen.
Yeah, still entertaining. Sorry,
It's still entertaining.
sorry.
Well, I mean, think of
Then
it.
you
The
realize
entertainment.
the world is more like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter than it is like freaking Star Trek.
Right?
If you look at the entertainment value, I have the press conference on my second screen here. It's muted. I'm just have it on. 3,340 people watching. I mean, damn. I mean,
Yeah.
there's like I mean, think about that. That is your engagement. That's your social media footprint on YouTube. The YouTube channel NASA only has 15 million subscribers, 14.9 million subscribers. The astronauts that supposedly went around the moon speaking in public for the first time, 3,000 views.
I mean, what are we going to do with this?
That's data right there. That's telling you there's more people. How many people are watching our live stream compared to like viewer subscriber count? Like if you want to do like a number, like per capita.
It's like it's almost as though those people just really don't. They're just so out of touch with like the common human in this world. What's the common human going to do with just the very news or even watching the rocket go up and up and up to the big ass rock that we call the moon? What's the common person going to do? They're still struggling to pay their rent, pay their car note, put food on the table. What the hell is this going to do for them? And what are they going to do with this? It's really not significant to them. No impact on their lives, except this whole psychological operation propaganda rigmarole, where it's a part of the whole psychological operation, inundating you with this whole worldview and all this rhetoric. Like, so they went to the moon. Like, let's think this through in their worldview. They went to the moon. How did this improve our lives? How did the common American, common human in this world, at least the Americans, what improved as a result?
You could say things got worse.
What did we get? Did I get more money? Did I get more knowledge? Did I get more assets? Did I get peace? What did I get?
I mean, couldn't they have solved homelessness here in the United States with the money
I mean, you'll spend
they throw
billions.
stupid
Thank you
shit?
for saying that. You'll spend billions upon billions, these fortunes, to take your ass up to the moon, while folks is poor and starving and thirsty and naked.
You know, what my favorite part of the Artemis launch was? It was while it was still on the launch pad. Eric Dubay pointed out, it was still on the launch pad. You can see a plane coming from the right, and it's going to go behind the rocket. But before it ever gets to the rocket, it just disappears into blue sky and then pops out of the other side. And it's like, huh, that's interesting.
They spend all this money on this moon travel or whatever, and you got Globers flashing money around. For example, like I don't know, I'm not gonna say anything. Some Globers kind of like throw out there like they got millions and they got money, whatever. And, they
That's
don't
why I
they
started.
don't they cannot donate type 1 diabetic maybe 100K so that he can go get some stem cells to maybe reverse the diabetes, right? They can't do that.
Like for instance, isn't Ruhif a self-professed millionaire? That pest.
Maybe.
I think I heard him say that once. I'm pretty sure I heard him say that
Man, you know
when I was
globals are
talking to him.
lying when their lips are moving. They're so full of shit.
Or Scott, fucking Scott Mackey.
This is what I started talking to that guy Reds Redrick, a prolific anti-flat earther, because he came into a server I was on, that QOP server.
Mhm.
The day, like apparently he went down there with a group of dudes to Florida. He lives like in New England somewhere. It had to drive like 3 days to get there and shit. On his way back, he connects to the flat earth server and just shits his pants. Just straight shits his pants about how are you guys still in the server? The rocket launch. Bleh. I'm like, dude, how are you in this server? I mean, you can't even take the ride back home to contemplate the return of manned spaceflight? How are you fundamentally immune to what you just watched? He goes like, that's not an argument. So I'm like, well, here we go. Okay, here's my argument. Premise one, someone saw a rare, historic, emotionally potent event. Premise two, they did not experience anything expected in terms of a cognitive shift in viewing that event. Conclusion, there must be an explanation for this. You're triggered over flat earth, dude. Supposedly 3 million people watched live, 400,000 people saw it in person. That means that your result was a 0.0000394. You were unable or unwilling to follow the event and even think about it for the ride home. There's an explanation here.
They really, I was referencing this earlier, but they don't really want to think. I was referencing the SR-71 Blackbird and how it traveled to like 2,300 miles an hour, and they can't even paint the damn thing because it'll burn the paint off. They can't put anything but the shape it had because it'll burn it and rip it off. Yet the space shuttle has all kinds of PVC pipes and blocks coming out of it. It's supposed to be traveling way faster than that. Give me a break, y'all. It's just not. It just doesn't work.
It's the outer lining made of passports. That's what does the trick.
Well, it's got to be Saudi Arabian passports, mind you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, any other passport burns up, but the Saudi Arabia, all the other passports that were on that plane, they all got destroyed. Only the Saudi passport survived.
You're not alluding to that Saudi Arabian passport that was found at so-called Ground Zero, right?
Oh, that's the one right there. Yeah.
Minus
And when I say
the
Ground Zero, I
gigantic
mean
Rolls
the
Royce
record
engine. Yeah.
at that atrocity in New York in 2001. Right?
Yeah, they called it the heap or something like that, or the pile. I can't remember the term. Something like that.
we have a new guy. Trust yourself only. So he's going to prove the curve of the ball earth.
Hey, Manuel, I'm heading to Portugal again.
Oh,
May.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, think about this. If it indeed really is the case that scientism is just this false worldview that is published by the government in the most basic sense of the word, and it is basically one of the essential constituents, or like the main bulk of the psychological operations that the government pulls upon the masses. Would it not then follow that if they themselves detect a real significant decrease in in the masses of believing and paying attention to the program, right? See where I'm going with this? If there's gonna, it would stand to reason that if scientism is indeed that, and that if there is indeed a significant decrease in the masses taking them seriously, taking the program seriously, all the shit they publish on TV and through all the various media, right? We're doing this, we're doing that, going here, going there, yada yada yada. If there's a significant decrease in that, then would that not then expose that it's indeed just a psychological operation? Because if they're really making progress, they're not going to just stop doing good work just because the masses aren't paying attention, right? They're just going to still go out of their way to do what they're doing and try to publish it, and really keep striving in spite of the decreased interest throughout the masses. But if they decrease the publication of their various content and lore because they recognize they're really not buying it, the masses aren't buying this anymore. You see?
I get my Van der Graaf generator in tomorrow, so I'm pumped to do some fucking science with my son, do some electrostatics.
I'll say this too. When was Space Force in the U.S. military made? Was it not around the same time that so-called flat Earth was swelling up in popularity? Wasn't that like 2019, 2020, 2018? Why didn't they make Space Force decades before then? I mean, would it not just simply follow? Why not make Space Force very soon after you landed on the moon or returned from the moon? Just makes sense, especially if it's so-called, if it's in the name of beating the Russians in the Cold War. Why not make Space Force then?
Man, this is also embarrassing. I'm going through the video right now, the press conference. The seats are empty. Like they're in some sort of auditorium. And there's like 10 people there. Like all the seats are just empty. They couldn't even fill an auditorium in some sort of controlled environment. It's like, hey everyone, you gotta come down here to listen to the astronauts. No.
Sorry, I'm too busy struggling in poverty. Sorry, too busy struggling with this divorce. Sorry, too busy struggling to pay my child support. Sorry, too busy struggling with this alimony fiasco. Sorry, too busy dealing with immediate fucking problems.
We're talking
Like
about
they're-
Artemis too?
Artemis, yeah.
Ah, okay.
How really no one gave a shit.
Yeah. Everything's fucked up. A lot of proofs.
You know, my second favorite part of the Artemis launch was where the mission commander, while they were in space, was talking about New York, and he said it's all across the country from where we're talking to you right now.
Or here's even worse. No, sorry, too busy taking care of my sick family member. Fill in blank X family member. Too busy trying to clean up the mess after this tornado ravaged everything I own. So
Yeah,
I'm too
I'm
busy
thankful
trying to
for my
take refuge
family's
from
help.
this war zone.
I don't take for granted at all that I've got a good job with great health insurance, and my family's health is in good shape, and so a lot of people don't have that.
Like, my anecdote is pretty much damn near devoid of the scientism lore. And it's funny, here's another comparison. You have the so-called academic sources, right? Or magazines for the populace, right? These various websites, and they publish all these articles, all this lore, things like that, whether it be digital or tangible, you to hold in your hands. It's just like Roman Catholics too. They do the same thing, right? It's just this ever growing lore, right? This ever growing lore within their worldview, right? 18th century Roman Catholic magisterium would anathematize the 21st century magisterium, and or vice versa. It's really more so the former than the latter. Or the ever growing content and library of rabbinic conjecture in the so-called Talmud. There's another comparison. Scientists do the same thing. They do the same thing. Far worse. There's no single literary body. I mean, you could kind of make an analogy, but there really is nothing in scientism that has this main, primary, or preeminent literary body of literature. Nothing like the Bible or the Quran. Nothing like the Talmud or the Vedas. Nothing like that in scientism. At best, you may make an analogy between like Isaac Newton's mathematics or Charles Darwin's Origin of Species or something like that. And that's really stretching it. Like it's a strained analogy. That's the best you can do. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember this bit of rhetoric that scientists love to say? I don't know who the fuck thought of this. So the rhetoric goes like this: if you erase all the religious books and then let people start again, like some sort of successive generation after, you'll get a whole different set of content. But if you erase all the science books today, you'll get the same content eventually because physics doesn't change. That's how the notion goes. That's how this notion goes. Fuck made this.
Isn't it interesting how there's no science books that outdate the Bible? Like every science book is being constantly rewritten.
Exactly.
Updated. Like what science book has lasted the test of time like the Bible or other holy books have?
What multi-millennia old science, quote unquote, literature is there that's just been saying the same facts or containing the same facts since ancient times, since before classical antiquity? What is this? Where's this ancient scientist Bible? Nowhere. Doesn't exist.
That's why they want to try to that topic where they talk about how if you destroy all the Bibles, it wouldn't be written again. It's not based in truth. It's based in some subjective storytelling or whatnot. But yet but they don't think that. How come all the religious books kind of say the same thing? Be nice to each other. Like don't harm each other. Take care of your fellow man. Talk about objective morals. Yet they all say the same thing, slightly different ways. But yet here's their science books are constantly updating and changing as more knowledge is gained. It's like that Tyson had talked about
the same doctrine, but they contain some of the same concepts exactly.
Yeah, so Tyson had talked about the more you know, that sphere of knowledge gets bigger, but the boundary of what you don't know also gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in this really sort of paradox. You're like, so if you were to know everything, would you know everything, or you wouldn't know everything?
If you were to be strict with that rhetoric, right?
Yeah, they get to the point where the more you know you don't know. But they know it all. They think they really know it all. They're like these know-it-alls, just like, but they can't answer. They can't answer anything. You try to ask them questions, they don't know anything. So the real talking point that they're trying to articulate there, that if they were to like burn all the books, destroy all human knowledge, and they had their way, they would restart humanity with this sort of subjective morals. With this idea where you don't know anything, you can't know anything. Ancient wisdom would be replaced with just like, hedonistic pleasure seeking. Get why the getting's good.
Yep.
That's basically Lawrence Krauss, his full defense. Like, hey, why'd you harass all those young women coming in STEM? Don't you see the damage? Just the pure damage you've done to science and technology by like sexually harassing women out of the field? He's like, yeah, my Winkie's more important than that. Here I had access to a bunch of young co-eds, and I'm not supposed to like, seize the opportunity? Wow, you sick fuck. That's someone's daughter.
Someone's daughter. Or mother, or sister,
Yeah,
or aunt,
sister.
or cousin.
Yeah. And that's the way he treated them. Like, send them to a college campus, think you're going to have some enlightened professor who's really into space and knowledge and grasping the bigger questions about why we're here. And the only thing he was thinking about was how to get his willy wet.
Not even that he likes you, just that he wants to touch you in this particular way.
Abuse. Physically abuse these young women. And then when he finally gets Me Too'd and they toss his ass out of here, the atheists finally say, well, yeah, I would do the same thing. Holy shit.
Hey, Gregory, real quick, you're talking about theory and cosmology, theology and cosmology stuff. Do you mind if I send you a couple screenshots from my phone that I found on a wind tracker site about the North Pole?
I don't mind.
I'll send it to you in just a second. It's a pretty cool looking shit.
Yeah, Craig, you're very good. I should have been told you this. You are very adept at gathering a lot of these details. And I think it kind of spans. Tell me if this is accurate or not. Like these details that I hear you like clockwork. You send it to my server and other servers that you send the caption or the screenshot and the GIF with, and like the things you talk about here sometimes spanning like pretty much throughout the 20th century into the present day with the 21st century. Us living in the residue of the 20th century. You are very adept at committing to memory these details and systematizing them and contextualizing them and explaining them. You're very adept at this.
Well, thank you.
Very adept at this.
Some might say adeptus mechanicus. Did someone nerd out with that? I got to check the text.
There was something else I wanted to add to that too. It slipped my mind. I'll beat myself. I'm still trying to think about it. There was something else I wanted to add to that. Oh, there we go. So with those details that you articulate and explain so well, I'm burping. Excuse me. You've really illuminated and highlight just pretty much the decline, the 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 trend that is the declination of the favor of scientism in the general masses, more so the general masses, but even in academia, the decline of scientism. It is falling out of favor. It is the trend of the past several years, even throughout the 21st century, has been a general decline of respect and a general decline of respect and credulity. There we go, to scientism. More and more dissent, more and more apostasy.
Because of what they saw that people were starting to value on other frameworks like philosophy and religion and science, asking questions about why, right and wrong, and how come. And they saw the power that people were starting to shift and understand the scientific method. So instead of embracing that and really saying, hey, here is the correct way to do science, they changed it from a verb to a noun and started identifying them as
You
a
deny
science.
science?
Yeah, because whatever they say is science, rather than what the results of the experiment are. They saw the power that people would be, we're going to change sciences for everyone. The science is for people who are highly specialized. To suddenly science is whoever the authority figures are. As soon as they did that, and then people started questioning authority, they're like, well, if you can't question it, is it even science?
That's why the rhetoric of "I believe in science" came out. Like
Yeah,
science
the
should be
belief.
something that you believe in. It should just be science.
Well, even
Come on,
better,
cool.
science is the power. The raw power of science comes from that you don't believe it. You verify it with
Right.
repeatable results, predictable, repeatable results. As soon as you take that away, I don't need to repeat it anymore. I'll just believe it. It's no longer science, it's a belief system.
And my analytical type of mind, analytic philosophy, type that in your search engine. Anyone who cares to really study the details about that. Analytic philosophy. It's really just a more longer way of talking about being very analytical with what people say. You're analyzing what they said.
Yeah, I bet you're real
But
popular with the ladies.
I know, right? But you learn because you only have so much damn energy to do any given thing, and so you also have only so much energy to concentrate that hard in or outside the context of debate or discourse. I have energy for now, just to believe my battery's going to run low and I'm going to go recharge, so to speak. And some days I don't give a fuck about this. Leave me alone. Shut up. Don't talk to me. I just want to play my game. I just want to listen to music. I just want to watch my TV show. Da 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 da. Whatever have you. So
I've said it before. I'm all out of explanatory chi.
so
At some point, you run out. You run out of steam.
like with these notions we just mentioned like 30 seconds ago. I believe in science. Well, take a step back, stand still, and stare at their rhetoric, and look at how malformed it is. right? How malformed it is, how grammatically malformed it is. This rhetoric is warped because they're talking in the same way, like the way a Christian would believe in Jesus. I believe in Jesus. That makes sense. That's a coherent proposition, right? You believe in Jesus. You trust in, you have confidence in, you have confide in this person to provide all the blessings that he promised. That makes sense. Science is not a concretely real person who acts faithfully. Science is an abstract category. It's abstract. What do you mean you believe in science? I understand you believe that science is what? The only way to know things or the best way to know things? That's a different notion. I believe in science as though science is some faithful benefactor to you or some faithful, trustworthy, sagacious tutor for you. It's basically personifying a non-person and conveying a a faithful relationship, a confidence in a category, as though the category were some person that is faithful and true. But you're supposed to be entirely disconnected and separate from religion, from faith, from belief. This stupid rhetoric. See, they're more so realizing when people like me speak up and say these critiques, they're more so realizing that they're nowhere near as smart as they think they are. But they have been deluded for such a long time, not just by their teachers, but by the other people around them who are not really in their circle, right? You have the scientism believers, and you just have everyone else that's just willy nilly, just doing their own thing, just being them. They're not really in the circle. They're not really in the scientism circle. Or they're not like these enthusiasts, common people or academicians or undergraduates studying these things, right? So for the longest time, for decades, just the general masses, the common people, they were more or less impressed by those in the scientism circle. They know so much. There's some smart folks. They got some bright heads on those shoulders. Da 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 da. So they've been treated like they're just so smart for so long. This is a new shift. All this criticism, all this chastisement and rebuke against their antics, all this analytical scrutiny and criticism and refutation against their worldview. They're not used to this. This is a watershed era in their history.
They're being challenged. Oh no.
Because they used to be
Hey,
like
I believe in method acting.
Hey, Gregory, man, I tried sending that message and said failed to send. Are you not receiving DMs from like just random people?
It should go through. Perhaps it's asking me to confirm first. No, it didn't do that either. I don't know why it didn't. I don't have anyone blocked.
I've never seen that. It said that you don't share a server enough, or they have their direct messages blocked only from friends, or something like that. I've never seen that thing
No,
before either.
because just earlier today, some people who are not on my friends list sent me some DMs. I don't get it. I don't get it.
And I can't post in the side chat because for some reason it still hasn't given me the ability. Does the admin in here have the ability to give me that ability? Because I've been in here for like a month.
I think a server mod would need to grant you that.
Yeah, there's a command for it. it gives you like the community role. Here, let me 1 second here. Let me look it up.
Yeah, 'cause I would like to post it in the side chat. It's pretty interesting. I'd like to share with everybody.
Here's another way to put it. They're not used to being treated the way they treat everyone else. Right? The way they approach everyone else was not in the scientism circle. They approach everyone else as these believers of these doctrinal systems. They're not used to being approached that way. They're used to presuming about themselves and being approached as though they just have the facts. They just have the facts. They don't have an ism. They just have the facts. No, you don't. You yourself are in an ism, in the circle of an ism.
Yeah, here,
I
I'm not
said that the
seeing,
other day, so the truth has become subjective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing anything in the log or the guide for commands. That maybe they here. I'll just post a message in our chat, our mod chat, and then one of the other mods will be able to do it for you as soon as they see it.
Yep, we're coming for you, intellects.
You self-professed intellects.
They're coming for you, Barbara. They're coming to get you, Barbara.
I want to say the line that
You
ends
know
with
that.
the N word, but
You
I
know
don't want
that.
to get in trouble.
You know what that's from?
What's that from?
The first. There was a black and white Night of the Walking Dead, like the very first one.
Hey.
And it came out and there's like I think it was brother and sister, and they were staying at she was afraid of graveyards, and their car broke down, so they're gonna stay at this little house that was kind of next to a graveyard. And the brother kept teasing the sister because like they're coming to get you, Barbara. You better not go this, And then sure enough, in the movie, then the Walking Dead come and they start eating people's brains and whatnot. How about, do you remember Agnes?
What's that from?
The Rosemary's Baby.
That's vaguely familiar. I think I've seen that scene. I haven't sat down and watched the whole movie though.
That was Sister Agnes. Sister Agnes.
Rosemary's Baby. That's 1970s, right?
I
Yeah.
like you. 6'7". 6'7".
Now, have you heard John Todd talk about that movie? If you even recognize the name John Todd. I don't expect anyone to recognize the name John Todd. Now, John Todd, I don't think that everything he said is true. I don't believe everything. But he had a lot of insight, and he vanished for some reason. And this was back in the late 70s when these audio recordings were made that I can send. Now I don't know which video. I think in this 5 video playlist here, I think he talks about Rosemary's Baby. He talks about a lot of things, a lot of interesting things throughout these tapes. So the whole thing is a very interesting listen. But the part when he's talking about the conspiracy that basically the movie is illustrating, the conspiracy that really happened, that movie is illustrating. I think it's in tape 2, video 2. I think. I'm gonna send it to you in DMs because I don't think I can send it in the open chat unless I can. Well, there it is. It's just a link. Yeah, the thumbnail doesn't pull up, but there it is. Bottom of the open
Oh,
chat.
okay. Yeah, I wonder, does it do? Oh, yeah, it just does a little tiny thing. Yeah, I wonder why it's going on with that. Why some people's perms are working and other people's aren't.
Now I have perms, don't I?
Yeah, it looks like you do. Can you post an image? It all does say add.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you have some other technique to find it quickly, or maybe you can look through the transcript that's of the video there in YouTube. But yeah, it's in there. I remember. I'm certain that he talked about it. I remember him talking about that part. Very interesting. He was a professing disciple, turned away from the occult and all that abominable garbage from one of the tyrant families, the Collins family. I would have loved to hear it. I would have learned. I would have loved to hear him talk about cosmology, especially in light of the recent movement. I would love to have heard Dr. Bonson. I would love to have heard Dr. Van Til. There's a lot of men I would love to have heard on a lot of issues, including cosmology and this whole worldview paradigm shift, worldview shift. Hey, y'all be peaceful. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right.
Later.
Take care.
See you, Greg.